taxes, I don't think it would be a slap on the wrist misdemeanor. Hey, probation, promise you won't do it again. Okay. I just don't think on any level that would be what would happen to me.
Challenge accepted, Dave. I accept your challenge. We're going to analyze whether this is a sweetheart deal in just a few moments. We're going to find out how much prison time other convicts for tax fraud get, how much time they spend in the slammer. Next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hi, it's Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Why should you start your day with us?
We have decades of news experience between us.
And we take your trust seriously.
Come here for news tomorrow, 5 to 9.
On KSL.
On the way home,
4,000 Utahns with student loans will get a break.
catch up on the day's biggest stories.
Record-setting temperatures plague cities all over the country.
Plus, traffic and weather every 10 minutes on the 9s. Get more from your drive with Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News. Weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Here's Jake Harwood of Harwood Farms.
Hey, I'm Jake Harwood, announcing Harwood Farms green roadside stands are now open.
Jake, look at what folks are saying online about Harwood Farms. Jeannie asked, when will your stands open and be selling your terrific corn?
That's what I just said. Our green roadside stands are now open.
Seth posts, bring on your corn, cantaloupes, and watermelons. Are you open yet?
We're open now. Click online to harwoodfarms.com for a complete list of our now open locations. Fresh from our family's farm to your family's dinner table.
Harwood Farms.
Martin's Collision Repair.
50,000 cars repaired and counting. Just check Martin's 5-star online reviews.
Philip posted, the workmanship was very well done. I was impressed with how well we were treated by each of the employees that we dealt with.
Hi, I'm Tiago Martins. Check Martin's Facebook page or martinscollision.com for your 5-star Martins experience. On State Street in Norham and in Salem, we work with all insurance companies.
The right repair, the right paint, the right choice. Martin's Collision Repair.
Chatting with Amanda McNabb from Huntsman Mental Health. Summer is here, and with kids out of school, that means more online time. Online bullying and harassment is on the rise. Amanda is here with some great advice.
Talking about children in dealing with social media, we're often looking at individuals who are being harassed or having bullying happening to them, which can create a lot of emotional distress. There's a lot of feelings of fear, anger, sadness. It might affect their self-esteem or their self-worth. And there are a lot of comments and negativity that can happen in these interactions. We really want parents to know that they can be there to support their teenagers in being able to better navigate those interactions to create a healthier interaction and social experience.
What are some warning signs your child may be dealing with this?
You may see some emotional distress, may see some changes in mood, increased anxiety, problems with self-esteem, or even increased anger with what's going on. Some kids may become overly involved in social media as a way of reacting to what's happening, but you also may see kids starting to avoid using social media or other digital services.
What's a good resource for a parent or guardian to go for more information?
Parents are always welcome to contact Huntsman Mental Health Institute at 801-583-2500 or by visiting hmhi.utah.edu. Our crisis line is always available as well. Our staff are very happy to talk with individuals. They can call or they can text 988 for students, parents, educators, anyone who needs to reach out and maybe talk a little bit about what's going on for them.
Amanda McNabb from Huntsman Mental Health, thanks so much for all the great information.
You're very welcome.
Back in the day, a shoemaker was called a cobbler because the stone you walked on was called cobblestone. Or was it the other way around? But before you can walk on cobblestone, you have to lay it down. Of course, you can also use cobblestone in your garden or park strips, or, well, you get the idea. But where do you get good old-fashioned cobblestone? The dirt bag. Imagine the things you can do with it in your yard and garden. If you have an imagination, the dirt bag has what you need to bring that dream to life. Rock mulch? How about 11 different rock mulches? Playground chips for the kids? Yep, the dirt bag. For topsoil, sod, bark mulches, and pathway material called chat, the dirt bag. And with a dirt bag, your garden and yard you have in your imagination can be delivered right to your driveway. Or you can pick it up in bulk yourself. There's a reason everyone loves the dirt bag. Find out what the dirt bag can do for you at thedirtbag.com. Thedirtbag.com.
the three things you need to know this hour. I'm Amanda Dixon. First, a home in Payson caught fire overnight after a neighbor was lighting fireworks and one tipped over, shooting sparks at the house. Second, a London jury has found Oscar-winning actor Kevin Spacey not guilty of multiple counts of sexual assault. And third, Team USA plays tonight in the Women's World Cup. Tonight's match against the Netherlands is a rematch of the 2019 World Cup final. Right now it's 82 degrees in Salt Lake City. Back to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
President Biden's son, Hunter, in a federal court, told the judge this morning he intends to plead guilty to misdemeanor tax charges. There's been some sort of a pause in the hearing. We think that has to do with a gun charge. I mean, believe it or not, as though the tax issue isn't a big enough issue for him. He's also accused of illegally purchasing a gun while he was on drugs and lying on a federal form over his drug use. So the Republicans, we know, are not pleased with this plea deal. He just avoids prison time for the gun charges and for the tax charges. But does he get a sweetheart deal compared to what other convicts get?
Ultimately, that's the real question. And I think that's where a lot of people are getting kind of upset about this, is they want to make sure that just because your dad's the president, that they're not going easy on you. So you have this information. You know what is normal.
Okay, so what is normal? Thanks to the U.S. Sentencing Commission, they actually compile facts on all kinds of crimes and what the end result is for those who plead guilty or are convicted of the crime. So I looked at the tax fraud offenses, and I thought these there's a ton of stats here, and these are the ones that I sort of focused on. I thought it was just, well, this just fits the profile of Hunter Biden. Most are men, most are white, overwhelmingly men, overwhelmingly white. Average age of tax evasion is 52.
Hunter is 53. Okay.
I think that's when people start to feel emboldened to try something new. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Try a new workout
I'm
regime.
Buy a fast car. I'm going to get a new girlfriend, and I'm going to start not paying my taxes. And this is to your point, Dave, most do get prison time, almost 70%. And most serve 16 months in prison.
Boom. Not just a little prison time, more than a year.
And that is actually up. I think over a 5-year period, that went up from the average sentence being about 15 months in prison to 16 months in prison. I mean, that's not a huge jump, but hey, a month of your life is an extra month of your life. And in federal prison, Greg Skordas, there is no such thing as parole in the federal system. It's not like they go in for a few months and then the parole board's like, yeah, you've exhibited good behavior. We're going to give you a get out of jail free card. I mean, they might get 10% for good time served if they're, if they're well behaved in prison, but that's about it. So I think that's pretty clear from the facts here that Hunter Biden is getting a sweetheart deal.
Okay, and I've listened to you, and I love you both. I would disagree.
Well, you're the attorney. You're the attorney, and so have at it. Tell us what really happens in court.
So I'm hearing words like tax fraud, tax evasion, that type of thing this morning on your show. And what happened here was that Hunter Biden made a significant amount of money. He reported it. He accurately reported it. He just didn't pay his taxes on it. So it's not like the situation, the cases that you're reading about, Debbie, of people who mislead the IRS. They lie about their income. They don't report income. He reports it. He just didn't have the funds to pay it. And typically in America, those incidents aren't even prosecuted, let alone prosecuted in the way that Hunter Biden has been. So it's a civil fine. The IRS comes down on you hard. They assess penalties. They assess interest, and they get their money, as the IRS always seems to do, by taking your home, by levying on your property, by doing whatever. But typically those that conduct, I should say, is not prosecuted criminally. And I would say the same is true about the gun. A person goes to buy a gun, they fill out the Brady form, and they say one of the boxes you check is, are you currently using drugs? I mean, I know it's wrong. I know you're not supposed to do that, but people don't typically say, yeah, I'm a drug user, and they buy the guns. And typically those aren't even prosecuted. Even that particular crime isn't prosecuted. It's usually assessed with a penalty, a fine, that type of a thing. And so, in my opinion, looking at the exact conduct that Hunter engaged in, I don't think he got a sweetheart deal at all. I think just the opposite. He's being made a bit of an example.
The judge has some discretion, right, whether or not to accept or reject the deal. I wasn't really familiar that a judge would reject deals. How does that work? And is that even a possibility?
It's very much a possibility, Dave, and I've had it happen to me before, and it's very heartbreaking when you go in and you cut what you think is a good, fair deal with the prosecutor. The judge says, you know what, I think this is too good of a deal. And this judge could very well do that and say, look, I'm not comfortable with this. You guys go back to the table and give me something with a little more substance. The judge can also impose a sentence. I mean, a misdemeanor carries up to a year in jail, and he's pleading guilty to 2. So notwithstanding the government saying we're not asking for jail or prison, the judge could say, you know what, I think you need to go do 90 days. I think you need to do 6 months. I think you need to do a year on each count. And there's not much anyone can do about that. So the judge can, A, reject the deal outright, or B, impose his or her own punishment in terms of prison that is outside the range of what the government and the defendant, the Biden and his team, are expecting. Typically, in the federal system, misdemeanors don't do time, but he very well could.
Where I'm having some heartburn with this, Greg, is the timeline here. You've got 2017, 2018. We're in 2023 now, and this has apparently gone on. And then a whistleblower he's a special agent with the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, comes forth and alludes that there's a 2014 and 2015 discrepancy as well with Biden. And so I'm just sensing a pattern here. And so this idea that, well, maybe it's not a sweetheart deal it just seems to me like, how long do you get to avoid paying back the IRS? And in fact, the IRS offers payment plans. They offer payment plans. And so it makes me wonder if he got on a payment plan, because I don't think the IRS would have come after him, or the feds would have come after him, if he was on a payment plan to pay his taxes back.
And I think that's exactly what happened. And I think most, if maybe even all of the taxes have now been paid, or they're in the process of being paid. And that's my point here. Typically, those cases wouldn't be prosecuted. The U.S. attorney in Delaware was appointed years ago under the Trump administration, and was appointed by Donald Trump. And as you know, Debbie, when new administrations come in, they appoint their own U.S. attorneys for the District of Utah or Delaware or whatever. But President Biden, didn't change that U.S. attorney. He left the Trump appointee in so that there wouldn't be the appearance of impropriety, and said, look, you're starting this investigation against Hunter Biden. Go finish it. We're going to stay out of that. And that's what happened here. So really, the U.S. attorney that's prosecuting this particular case in that particular jurisdiction was the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney for the district, who hung on to his job even during the Biden administration, and has now decided how to handle this case that's been ongoing, and the investigation has been ongoing, as you guys have both indicated, for years and years now.
Does your gut tell you that the judge will accept the plea deal?
Yes. I think that it will go through, and he may give Hunter Biden more time than everyone's expecting, but I think the judge will accept the plea deal.
You think he'll actually give him some sort of prison time, jail time?
I think it's likely. I think there's a chance that he could do some. It'll be local time. It'll be jail time as opposed to prison.
Yeah,
right. But I think there's a chance of that.
Greg Skordas, KSL legal analyst. Thank you for joining us.
So we're clear. The judge, I believe, is a female, and the judge is appointed by President Trump. I'm not suggesting that there's going to be anything nefarious about that, but you just heard Greg also clarify that the U.S. attorneys over this case was left in place by President Biden, appointed by President Trump. I firmly believe that judges do things based on the facts at hand. When it comes to these types of cases. But we don't know. We don't know what the judge is going to do. We do know that Hunter Biden has said he does intend to plead guilty.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, flash flood risk is high at several southern Utah national parks and recreation areas over the next few days. National Weather Service meteorologist Michael Wessler tells KSL at Night the best thing you can do is be proactive.
We put out forecasts with the expected precipitation specifically for these parks and Slot Canyon areas on our website, on social media, and you can also get these forecasts at all of the park visitor centers.
Weather officials say flash flooding is possible at places like Capitol Reef National Park and the San Rafael Swell. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The son of NBA All-Star LeBron James is said to be in stable condition this morning after going into cardiac arrest during practice at USC yesterday. ER physician Dr. Benjamin Abella tells us Bronny's early recovery is positive.
It's pretty uncommon, actually, for someone to be so quickly out of the ICU after resuscitation from cardiac arrest. So this is a very good sign.
Today, doctors will be running tests to figure out what led to the cardiac arrest in the 18-year-old. President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, has arrived at federal court in Delaware, where he is expected to plead guilty to 2 tax crimes and admit possessing a gun as a drug user. The anticipated pleas are part of a deal with the Justice Department that will likely spare Hunter Biden time behind bars. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 11 points. We're at 35,449. Coming up, more triple-digit highs on the way. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
On KSL News Radio.
It's midnight. How long till your brother comes to get him?
Oh, honey, we've had him for an hour.
Watching someone's pet is difficult, but watching their firearms isn't.
We love you, and we want the best for you. Can we hold on to your guns until you're feeling safer?
Help prevent suicide. If someone you know is struggling, ask if you can temporarily hold on to their guns. Learn more at liveonutah.org.
At Sportsman's Warehouse, we're ready for hunting season. It's Vortex month, and you can save up to $300 on Vortex scopes and optics. Plus, get a Sportsman's gift card with your qualifying purchase. Save 25% on select men's and ladies' camo. And you'll find great prices on the bows, rifles, and ammo you need for your hunt. Plus, you can enter to win our Elk Hunt of a Lifetime sweepstakes. So get in, gear up for your hunt, and save now at Sportsman's Warehouse.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing and me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new place. Nothing is every day.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
KSL News Time now is now 9:34. Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s. Brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. And here's Lynn Thomas.
Well, we did have a crash northbound I-15 in Bluffdale, 162nd south. That is cleared. Also further north, a crash in Sandy at 90th south. That's also gone. Traffic getting back up to speeds, and it has evaporated pretty much a little bit in Sandy, and then again Midvale up to Murray. In Weber Canyon, I-84 is slowing eastbound from the power plant to the rest area. Not sure why at this point. Emergencies don't wait, and neither do the experts at Big Brothers Home Services. Available 24/7 for emergency plumbing, draining, cleaning, backups, and leaks, because they do more. Len Thomas in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather now. Hot sunshine this afternoon will bring a high of 99 degrees with some afternoon storms. Look for an overnight low of 75 and then a high of 100 tomorrow. We get back up to 103 by the weekend. Right now it's 84 degrees at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic.
If you work for UPS, congratulations. Wow, the Teamsters did you solid. UPS delivers more than 24 million packages
per day.
And they were able to avert a strike. UPS, Teamsters Union coming to the table, and they cut a deal, a good deal, too.
But I think it's a great victory for the labor movement in general. We actually took on corporate America and won today.
This matters because you and I and the rest of America are addicted to shipping. We love it. And a strike could have been one of the costliest in U.S. history. Let me give you an idea. We got the big four shippers. United States Postal Service, UPS, they're number 2, Amazon, FedEx. Those are the big ones. Let me paint a picture for you, Debbie, just to give you an idea how many boxes, packages that we send every year. Say every box is a foot in height. You could stack 20 columns of boxes and reach the moon in all 20 columns. That's how many boxes we send. Billions and billions and billions of boxes, packages sent every single year. So disrupting this or shutting it down, a quarter of the packages, that's what UPS is responsible for. That's what they do. About a quarter of the packages would have been devastating to our economy.
Yeah. I just want to know if they're hiring.
You looking for a career change?
Yeah. Well,
I did this media thing for a while. Now I'm looking to drive a truck.
We're going to get into how much money the UPS drivers and workers, and even part-time workers, are going to be boosted in just a moment. So it would have cost, what did you say, $7 billion?
Yeah.
To the
That
economy?
just in 10 days. If that would have been a 10-day strike, it would have cost $7 billion to the economy.
So Abe Eshkezani is the CEO of the Association for Supply Chain Management. That sounds like the most exciting job on the planet. Wow, Abe. So he tells CBS that other companies couldn't have picked up the slack for UPS if they went on strike. No way.
First, I think we can all breathe a sigh of relief that it's not going to happen. That's first. Secondly, I think the predictions in terms of costs and delays in delivery for consumers and patients alike across our network, I think would have taken a substantial hit. We don't have another alternative to the volume that UPS delivers. So while the Postal Service or FedEx or other delivery companies may have picked up some of the volume that would have been impacted, we just don't have enough volume or supply in the network to account for all the products that are shipped through UPS for small businesses as well as consumers.
My initial reaction when I heard about UPS going on strike, or potentially, I thought, oh, well, good news for FedEx or the Postal Service or Amazon. But he said the volume, the amount, they just can't swallow up that much volume. So they would just go either massive delays until it got resolved.
That's why the workers had so much power in this. Because if they walk off the job, they stop delivering packages, it's just a domino effect. I mean, they are so big and they're so important to the whole operation. This is a 5-year deal that they struck. And I think it still has to be ratified, but it's a 5-year deal. Let's get into the details of it, the juicy details. So UPS corporate agrees to put an additional $30 billion of new money into the deal. There's like 300,000 employees. Okay, part-time workers. UPS does. I mean, I'm not a recruiter for UPS, but I may sound like one right now. They have some, like, they're part-time workers. I mean, they've got it pretty good in terms of part-time work, in my opinion. How did I know this? My oldest daughter used to work there. I mean, she was making pretty good money and got almost promoted right away, just because she was such a hard worker. Pay jump $15 to $21 an hour with this deal. Here's the president. I think he's the president of the Teamsters Union, Sean O'Brien, talking on Fox about the part-time workers.
We're taking care of our members that go into work every single day, especially the part-timers. This is going to improve their lives tremendously, but it's also going to add stability to UPS's workforce. When you're paying people a livable wage, when you're paying people for the hard work that they do and treating them with respect and dignity, they're going to retain employees. So I think it's a win-win for both of us, but more importantly, for our part-timers. This is the first time ever that our part-timers, in some instances based on their years of service, will be getting larger wage increases than full-timers. So this is historic.
I think that was one of the biggest, most shocking moments of this deal was the priority they put for part-time workers. Typically, the part-time workers are kind of the throw-in, but everything, the focus, the energy is spent on the full-time workers. So to see that so much time, effort, money was focused on the part-time workers who, quite frankly, make the engine run, right? When you have these peak times during the holidays, that is filled not by full-time workers, but part-time workers.
Well, that's because, in my view, that's because the full-time workers and the drivers went to bat for the part-time workers.
Yes.
They were like, we are not going to sign anything and agree to anything until you bump up pay for the part-time workers. And awesome. I just love it when employees come together and have the backs of fellow employees. And that's what happened here. And that's why part-time workers at UPS are going to go under this deal from $15 an hour to $21 an hour. It's a $6 an hour raise. That's awesome. Okay, others will get about $3 an hour for full-time workers when it comes to a raise. Top rate right now at UPS, $49 an hour. $49 an hour.
That's a huge amount of money. That's over $100,000 a year.
Well, and I saw the top salary at UPS for drivers is like $134,000 a year.
Yeah, that's a great rate. And part of what makes this so important, and when you're looking at well-paying jobs, typically we think, oh, you got to have a college degree. Drivers don't need a college degree. That is not a minimum requirement to be a driver. So if you can make 6 figures driving a vehicle without having to go to college, without the debt, you can see how enticing it might be, not just as a part-time job, but as a long-term career.
So often I hear the idea of unionizing dismissed. Just dismissed. Like, unions are a problem. You know, we can't have unions. But this case, the Teamsters Union said, yeah, I mean, they won for UPS workers. And now I heard him say this morning that they're going to move on to Amazon and go talk to Amazon workers. And here's what else they got them, right? These folks are driving around without air conditioning units in their truck. I had no idea, and I'm sorry. You know, it's like 100. It's like the surface of the sun right now in places like Phoenix. And y'all are driving around in these trucks that are not air conditioned. Well, that's going to change.
So in the meantime, the existing trucks will be equipped with 2 fans. They're going to modify the cargo areas with more ventilation. So it's a short-term fix, but you know, we made history by getting the company to agree every single new vehicle that's put into existence will have air conditioning.
That's why you need unions. You need unions.
For air conditioning?
Well, yeah. I mean, how long has UPS been in business? And these the delivery drivers have been driving around and working in the backs of those trucks and shifting packages around and running in and out of, you know, driveways to get packages up to the front door without air conditioning. I mean, come on. When was air conditioning invented in cars? What year? Not recently.
Yeah, it's been around for a while, but it's very common for big trucks, especially ones that have open doors or open windows, to not have air conditioning. When I used to drive school bus, we did not have air conditioning. We had windows and we had a few fans because you're constantly opening and closing doors, and it's hard to keep that conditioned air inside. And you look at the UPS trucks, they're wide open. So how effective is that AC going to be? I don't know. We'll see. But there you go. At least the new trucks are going to have AC.
I want to talk to delivery drivers. If you drive a delivery truck, can you call us if it's safe to do so? 801-575-TALK. 801-575-TALK. Do you need a pay raise? Do you need a pay raise? Do you have a truck that's not air conditioned? Do you need air conditioning? We want to hear from you on this UPS deal. 801-575-TALK next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Before Dave and Debbie get started each day, this station is all news all morning.
And later today, we follow up on those stories as you drive home.
Get important news all morning and all afternoon.
Here on KSL News Radio.
Well, summer's here, and of course, a lot of activities come along with it. But if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling sluggish, if you're not feeling good about yourself, you may just find yourself missing summer sitting on the couch. It's time to shift the game. SOTA Weight Loss, SOTA, stands for state-of-the-art weight loss because it is state-of-the-art, is your path to actually be able to get out and enjoy your summer. The pounds and inches fall away because it's based on science. You have your own nutritionist and coach to help you along the way. And I'm not the only one who's had great success. I lost 37 pounds, got me off the couch, got me back engaged in all kinds of activities, and you can do the same. It's really simple. You've heard me say it before when it comes to your SOTA weight loss journey. There's no time to lose. There's only time to win. So start winning. Summer's just right here, and it's a great chance for you to get in the game, get control of your health and wellness, and project a better future. Check it out at sotaweightloss.com, SOTA weightloss.com.
Embarrassed by ugly yellow toe fungus?
Living with toe fungus it's embarrassing. I was afraid to take my socks off. I hid my yellow and crumbly toes from everybody.
Introducing Crystal Flush. Crystal Flush is the only FDA-registered 2-in-1 home treatment that attacks your toe fungus from both the inside and out. Crystal Flush's new and different combination system knocks out toe fungus for good. Guaranteed.
Crystal Flush is different. After just a few weeks, my fungus was gone. 100% disappeared. Crystal Flush was the only thing that ever worked. So if you're skeptical because you tried a bunch of other stuff, Crystal Flush is different. This is a game changer.
Crystal Flush is now available without a prescription, but it is not available in stores. Get your risk-free supply today. Go to crystalflush.com. That's CRYSTAL flush.com. Stop being embarrassed by ugly yellow toenails. Go to crystalflush.com or call 800-204-4484.
Hunter Biden in court this morning on tax charges and also a gun charge. And now we're getting reports that the plea deal that was arranged between his defense team and prosecutors appears to be falling apart, Dave.
Let's dip into CNN right now that is analyzing this Hunter Biden plea deal that may be in jeopardy.
Biden's side, it could be they have an understanding that it's not reduced to writing, or again, there could be some nuance maybe that they haven't agreed to. But yes, this is not some side issue. This is really the core of what a plea agreement's about.
Stand by.
Okay.
Again, we have Kara Scannell back in the federal courthouse as discussions seem to be going on still. We'll figure out if there's any new development there today. In the meantime, let's bring in Sarah Murray, who's been covering this from all kinds of different angles for months and months now. Was there any sign that there was trouble heading into the last few minutes, Sarah?
Well, look, I don't know that anyone was expecting things to fall apart in this sort of spectacular fashion, at least for now. You know, as others have pointed out, they're in recess again, trying to see if they can work through some of these disagreements. But there were signals from David Weiss, the U.S. attorney, that this investigation was ongoing. And everyone was sort of trying to read the tea leaves about what this meant. Did this just mean the investigation was ongoing in the sense that, you know, you have to wait for Hunter Biden to formally enter his plea, for the judge to approve it, for the judge to sign off on the sentencing? or could there be another piece of it? And in Weiss's letters to Capitol Hill, he did kind of signal that there may be another piece of this ongoing. You know, when he was agreeing to show up for testimony in front of the House Judiciary Committee led by Republicans in September and October, his letter about that notes that there could be investigative steps, prosecutorial decisions, judicial proceedings that are ongoing that he was not able to talk about. And again, I think a lot of people looked at that line and thought, you know, that just means let's get through the plea deal, let's get through the sentencing. But what we are hearing in court today is that there may be more of this going on, and points of this where, frankly, Hunter Biden's defense team and prosecutors were not on the same page about where this investigation stood and if it is in fact over, John.
Yeah, I'm not sure they were in the same book, let alone the same page. Based on the reporting we have over the last few minutes, whether that changes or not, I guess we will have to see. Sarah Murray, thank you very much.
Ellie, not to belabor the point, but how rare is it that as a prosecutor that you are walking in for this type of hearing and you are walking out perhaps with the deal falling apart?
It's very, very rare. Sometimes you do have a miscommunication about what the scope of, as we'll call it, the coverage is. How much is this person covered moving forwards? But that is, in some sense, the most important issue in a case. Look at this case. If Hunter Biden pleads to 1 or 2 or 3 tax misdemeanors, it's 2 in this case, that's fine. But the agreement here is no prison time. The bigger concern is he covered for anything else? Is he going to get a pass from DOJ for anything else? And you would absolutely have that hammered out from both sides. To have it fall apart in this fashion is really surprising and doesn't reflect well on either of the two parties.
If they walk out of here anytime soon, and we have these live cameras there to try to figure out if they're walking out with no deal.
Right.
What happens then from a prosecutorial and investigatory standpoint? Does the DOJ then file charges tomorrow?
So they're back to the drawing board. DOJ could say, okay, we don't have a deal. We're going back to our investigative work. You might get indicted straight up, or we might conclude that we don't have enough to charge here. Now, they're already on record saying that they believe he committed a tax, at least misdemeanor.
I mean, he was agreeing to plead guilty to tax charges. You would think they would say, okay, we're going to charge you.
If this falls apart, there is next to no chance that DOJ says, okay, our deal fell apart, no charges for him at all, because, again, they're already on record saying they believe he committed both the tax charge and the gun charge. So there's a very high risk to Hunter Biden if this deal falls apart.
Talk to us a little bit about...
You've been listening to live coverage from CNN. Hunter Biden in court this morning in a federal courtroom in Delaware, where now this plea deal that he had struck with prosecutors appears, by network reporting anyway, that it's falling apart. We don't know specifically what the problem was. We do know that he had told the judge that he intended to plead guilty and that he's facing 2 tax misdemeanor counts that would according to the deal, he wouldn't serve any prison time on. But I think that the problem, from what I'm reading, Dave, came up with the gun charge. He's accused of purchasing a gun while on drugs, but yet lying on a application, a federal form, and he was found out. He did admit that he had some kind of addiction, I think, to cocaine. It appears, at least right now, that may be the issue at hand, is some sort of misunderstanding regarding the gun charge or the no prison time that has been built into the plea deal.
We will continue to follow this, and this is breaking news that the Hunter Biden plea deal seems to be in jeopardy.
At Intermountain Primary Children's Hospital, we made a bold promise to build the nation's model health system for children. Join us in realizing our vision for the future of pediatric care. So together, we can expand primary children's impact and ensure every child has access to the right care at the right place at the right time. For a century, Primary Children's has kept the child first and always. Help us continue to do so for the next 100 years. To get involved, visit primarypromise.org.
Let's cut to the chase. $25 per room for the best no-residue carpet cleaning. Zero Res pioneered the no residue difference, and to celebrate Pioneer Day, Zero Res will clean your carpets for just $25 per room. Other companies say they clean as good as Zero Res, but it's just not the same. Zero Res has patented technology to ensure you get the best cleaning possible, and yes, those patents mean that no one else is cleaning like this. Celebrate Pioneer Day with the pioneers of no residue cleaning, zero res carpet and air duct cleaning. Today and tomorrow only, they are cleaning the Wasatch Front for just $25 per room. Minimums and restrictions apply, but there are no maximums. Clean 5 rooms, 6 rooms, clean the whole house. Just $25 per room. You don't have to clean today, but you do have to get on the schedule. $25 per room. Pioneer Day savings ends on the 27th. Schedule today. Visit zerorez.com. That's ZEROREZ.com.
Dave and Dujanovic.
We're really closely watching the developments back in Delaware, where it appears that the plea deal between Hunter Biden and prosecutors regarding tax charges and also a gun charge seems to be falling apart.
Let's go to Fox News right now. We just heard from CNN. Let's listen to Fox News' coverage.
Do we have? There we go.
So there is a huge amount at stake here getting this plea deal done, and that is why Hunter Biden's lawyers will do anything possible to get that deal ratified today if they possibly can.
Is there anything that the president can do at this point? I mean, this was put together by his DOJ. I'm curious your thoughts on that, Charlie.
I don't see. I mean, obviously he's. It appears that he's been very involved all along in this, but I don't know at this point what more you could do to help the situation. This is the craziest level of brazen political corruption that I've ever seen. I've covered politics for a long time. I covered politics in Detroit. I've never seen this level of just complete shameless political corruption. It's truly amazing. And a couple of things I think is very interesting. One is the comment from Andy McCarthy talking about the statute of limitations on that gun charges. That really brings you up short. Not only does that sort of cast us forward in terms of what could happen, but let's also not forget, during the course of this investigation, the IRS, the federal government, allowed a lot of these other previous charges to expire before they even charged him. So that's not an empty concern about the gun charges. The second thing is the judge's interest in the quote-unquote ongoing investigation. Part of this, the White House has used and Hunter Biden's lawyers have used the threat of ongoing investigation as a shield against having to answer questions about this by saying, oh, well, it's ongoing investigation. We can't answer questions about that. So is the IRS and DOJ. Well, so if that's the concern and it's not an ongoing investigation, then they have to answer a lot of questions. And that gets into some really politically sensitive.
All right, you've been listening to the coverage, the analysis there on Fox News about the apparent delay right now in the hearing involving Hunter Biden and tax charges and also the gun charge. Greg Skordas, our KSL legal analyst, this kind of came out of the blue. I did some quick research. It seems like the hiccup is that gun charge, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah, I mean, gun charge is a really interesting animal because what the plea bargain was with relation to the gun charge is what we call a diversion. In other words, the government has said, we will put the prosecution of this purchasing a gun under false pretenses charge sort of in the back room here for 2 years. You stay clean. You make sure you don't use drugs. You commit no other offenses and do whatever else you're ordered to do, and they'll dismiss that charge. Some people call it an abeyance. Some people call it diversion. But technically it would not be on his record, and he wouldn't have to plead guilty to it. And that's the hiccup here. That's a little bit unexpected, but there may be issues with relation to statute of limitations. There may be issues with respect to maybe that's too sweetheart of a deal, or maybe the opposite, that, hey, you couldn't prosecute it anyway because you've lost the statute of limitations. So I think they're trying to sort that out. But I had always expected, Debbie, that was the lesser charge here, the one that wasn't quite as important. But now it seems to be taking the forefront a little bit.
Greg, when you're talking about the statute of limitations, it does seem that they've taken so long investigating this. Can the statute of limitations essentially run out while they're still investigating, or how does that work?
No, that's a great question. So really, and the short answer is yes, the statute of limitations is that clock's ticking all the time, whether there's an investigation going on or not. But what happened, and I'll try to make this short, is this whole investigation started involving Hunter Biden's relationship with Ukraine, with that whole energy company, Trump feeling like that was a conflict, that he had no business doing that. He took all this money. So they started this investigation, which really went nowhere. But as you know, and Debbie knows even better because of her experience with the FBI, you start an investigation looking down one road and you find other crimes. For example, the gun thing.
Right.
You find that, oh, by the way, he didn't pay taxes during these specific years.
Greg, as you know, as your host here at KSL at Night, we got to run right now just for a few minutes. But hold the line if you can for us, Greg Skordas. We're going to come back and talk about this Hunter Biden case right now in courts. Appears to be falling apart.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, your all-day companion for news.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. Our top story this hour is breaking news. The plea bargain intended to keep Hunter Biden from going to prison on tax evasion charges may be in trouble now. CNN reports Biden's lawyers are insisting the agreement prevent any further prosecution on similar charges, while the judge is saying that was not part of the deal. In London, a court has found actor Kevin Spacey not guilty on 9 counts of sexual assault against several accusers. Spacey says he was humbled by the outcome and the work of the court.
To the jury for having taken the time to examine all of the evidence and all of the facts carefully before they reach their decision.
Spacey had previously been found not liable in a civil trial brought by fellow actor Anthony Rapp in New York City. Here in Utah, people living on the west side of Salt Lake City deal with worse air quality compared to the rest of the community. KSL News Radio's Michael Commett has more.
So there's a recent EPA report saying that residents in West Point, Jordan Meadows, Poplar Grove, Glendale, Fair Park, and Rose Park all face greater health risks, including developing asthma and even cancer. Proximity to I-15 plays a part here, but much of the air pollution comes from manufacturing and natural sources, such as lake dust or even wildfire smoke. Now, there are state plans to help curb the amounts of pollutants, but city leaders encourage West Side residents to work with lawmakers to express their concerns at legislative meetings. Michael Commett, KSL News Radio.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 46 points on the day. The NASDAQ is down by a similar amount, about 44 points right now. And our KSL weather, another hot day with that chance of thunderstorms. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
This summer, the political season heats up.
By August, it'll be time for debates. Can you believe it?
We're planning coverage of the real issues, the important stories that impact how we live.
Listen each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Men who have given up in their intimate life because of prostate issues, testicular cancer, or simply no ED treatments you've tried have worked. It's not the end. At Summit Men's Health, they have a customized approach for each individual patient to get results they desire and deserve. Stop wasting your time and money with treatments that don't work for most men, like Shockwave, Viagra, or the shots. Summit Men's Health guarantees results in your first visit, or you don't pay. Call Summit Men's Health today and get the spark back in your relationship. Summit Men's Health, 435-500-2790. They're so confident this will work for you, they promise if you don't get results on your first visit, they pay you $500 cash, no questions asked. Call Summit Men's Health today at 435-500-2790. That's 435-500-2790 to get the passion back in your love life.
Back in the day, a shoemaker was called a cobbler because the stone you walked on was called cobblestone. Or was it the other way around? But before you can walk on cobblestone, you have to lay it down. Of course, you can also use cobblestone in your garden or park strips, or, well, you get the idea. But where do you get good old-fashioned cobblestone? The dirt bag. Imagine the things you can do with it in your yard and garden. If you have an imagination, the dirt bag has what you need to bring that dream to life. Rock mulch? How about 11 different rock mulches? Playground chips for the kids? Yep, the dirt bag. For topsoil, sod, bark mulches, and pathway material called chat, the dirt bag. And with a dirt bag, your garden and yard you have in your imagination can be delivered right to your driveway. Or you can pick it up in bulk yourself. There's a reason everyone loves the dirt bag. Find out what the dirt bag can do for you at thedirtbag.com. Thedirtbag.com.
Troy, I'm depressed. Bitches RV and American Fork is killing it.
What's depressing about that?
Stewart's RV managers and staff are still here, so we've got the same incredible customer service.
That's good.
And we brought in new RV brands like Ember RV and Go Play Travel Trailers.
Also good.
And now you can shop hundreds more RVs at bitches.com.
Still waiting for the sad part.
I'm used to being a mentor, but I'm turning into a manatee.
You do have the same shape. Bish's RV is now open in American Fork. Come see us at the previous Stewart's RV or at our North Salt Lake location. Bish's RV, where memories begin.
Hey, this is Chris with JCW's. Not feeling a burger? We've got you covered. Try one of our hot ribeye, turkey, or BLT sandwiches, and you'll understand why we say JCW's, quality, and a lot of it.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Here's Lynn Thomas.
Well, Dan, in Utah County, a trailer fire southbound I-15 at Pioneer Crossing is taking two right lanes. Further southbound, the southbound traffic is getting by in two left lanes from Lehigh's Main Street, and now it looks like there's a crash northbound I-15 in the same area on the left shoulder, possibly some rubbernecking going on there, but a little bit of slowing there. Further north of this in the Salt Lake Valley, traffic a little below speeds, Midvale to Murray. Pioneer Day savings with the pioneers of no residue carpet cleaning, only $25 per room, minimums apply. You don't have to clean today, but you do have to schedule online at zerores.com. I'm Len Thomas in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, a high of 99 today with a chance for thunder showers this afternoon. Highs climb back above 100 by Friday and Saturday. Right now, 84 degrees, partly cloudy at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
I believe we found the snag in the Hunter Biden hearing, the plea agreement that seems to be falling apart right now in a Delaware courtroom. I think from my research here, Dave, and maybe you've found other information as well that you can add to this, is that Biden's team, his defense team, wants assurances of immunity from future criminal charges, and prosecutors are pushing back on that. So that seems to be right now the issue that they're dealing with back in Delaware in that courtroom. Now, we expected for it to be kind of a seamless hearing today. Hunter Biden walking to court early this morning, ready to plead guilty to tax charges. He also was facing that gun charge for illegally purchasing a firearm while under the influence of an addiction of cocaine. And filing a false form to purchase that gun. But just a short time ago, snafu, and here we are.
Greg Skordas, KSL legal analyst, joins us right now. And Greg, as we've been trying to figure out exactly what the hiccup would be, Debbie just explained it. Sounds like there was an immunity element. I'm not even quite sure what that would have covered, or are they just saying, I don't know. What do you make of it? Is there anything that sets off some bells for you?
Yeah, so the judge is concerned about sort of the totality of the deal and wondering if the gun charge is tied into the tax charges or whether that's sort of independent. And she's also concerned because the government is saying, look, we don't usually prosecute these cases. He lied about the fact that he was a drug user at the time he went to purchase a gun. We're just going to divert it. And the judge said, well, look, you may want to look and see if there are other charges that could be filed. Let's separate the gun charge from the tax charge and try to decide if there's something that can be done with that charge independent of what you guys have contemplated here, which is this pretrial diversion and just be good for 2 years and it'll go away. So I predicted this all wrong, by the way, a few minutes ago. So I apologize. I thought this part of the thing was going to go smoothly, but it's also not surprising that every once in a while there's a hiccup, and the judge is like, "Wait a minute, we need to think this out."
Right. And Greg, you've been an attorney forever, and I've been in courtrooms covering cases forever, and I know Dave himself, his family has been involved in a court case for a very, very long time. So we all understand that these instances, these moments, these hearings can just turn on a dime, and suddenly you have courtroom drama. And sometimes it's just confusing for the average observer or even the person who covers court cases. You're like, what is going on? What is falling apart behind the scenes? Because just to set the scene for our listeners, this starts years ago when Hunter Biden fails to pay a couple $100,000 in taxes when he's bringing in about $1.5 million a year. I don't know why you can't afford the $100,000 in taxes. That's a separate, that's just me curious as to where all the money's going. But he doesn't pay the taxes. He gets snagged by the criminal division of the IRS. And apparently there's even allegations that maybe it goes a little farther back. Maybe those cases escaped the IRS's hands because the statute of limitations ran. But in 2018, 2019, they were able to catch him and bring these charges forward. They're misdemeanor charges. And then in their investigation, they find, that he's also, filed a false form to get a gun while he's under the influence of cocaine. So this has a lot of layers to it. And I can certainly see where the judge is asking the question about, how is the gun charge related to the tax fraud charge? And why are we doing this all in one big, you don't go to prison at all kind of deal?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Debbie. And the sort of the big elephant in the back of the room, of course, is that that this is political. And I think the judge is saying, look, we want to be transparent. We want to make sure that he's not being treated different than anyone else, either better or worse. And so show me why this is a fair resolution. Show me, and you cited some stats earlier, Debbie. I thought that was very impressive, but the judge is probably asking for the same kind of thing. Like, historically, tell me what your office has done with this particular kind of crime, people lying about their drug use when they're buying a gun, or people who don't pay taxes on $1 million in income, report it but just don't pay it. Show me why this case should be prosecuted different than others, if it is, or if it's not, then maybe we can go ahead and do it. So I think the judge just has some concerns. She's entitled to that. That's why she's up on the bench with the robes on, is to make sure that everyone's, both sides, the prosecution and the defense, are doing what they should be doing, and that this is not a political prosecution, either favorable to the Biden or disfavorable to the kid because of who he is.
So what does the Department of Justice do now? So say this does all fall apart. They've got to go back to the drawing board. What is their next step?
Oh, boy, I've been in that exact position, Dave, both as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney, when a judge says, hey, you guys go back to the drawing board, and you just go, it's exactly what you do. And maybe you just present the same plea to the judge again, but with some supporting information so that the judge can feel like justice is being served here, that what's happening here is consistent with the law, consistent with the practice of the Department of Justice, and that there's no politics in any decision that's being made here. So they may revisit the entire plea. They may just try to make it more palatable for the judge, or they may sort of bifurcate it a little bit and say, okay, the tax thing's fine. Let's go ahead and enter the misdemeanor pleas on that and schedule a sentencing. But let's revisit how we're handling the gun case and decide if it's a case that we want to charge criminally, or whether this diversion still makes sense, or whether we can't charge it at all because the statute of limitations may have run.
Well, I want to just play what if for a moment here with you, Greg. I really feel like this could be a potential issue for them to look at even further, and the gun charge in particular. And they may decide to continue on the investigation route and if they find any more evidence, take it before a grand jury and not allow for a plea deal. Let a grand jury decide whether to indict the president's son or not to indict.
Yeah. Right, and that's probably the safest thing for the Department of Justice to do.
I think they should have done that from the beginning.
So much.
I think they should have done it from the beginning. I don't know why they were making this deal between the prosecutors and the Biden's defense team. Why not just take it to a grand jury?
Yeah, and obviously that's the safest thing to do. But Debbie, you also have to keep into account: would we normally bring a case like this before a grand jury? And if the answer is no, we typically don't, and I assume that's going to be the answer in all honesty, then maybe you need to look back and say, we don't need to take this to a grand jury, because if we do, we're doing it because of who the individual is, not because of what the crime was. We're doing it to make sure that he's not being treated differently, when in fact that's exactly what we end up doing. So who knows what they'll end up doing, but it's a problem today, and it may not happen today. But I think we'll be back in front of this judge here the next few weeks, or maybe the next few hours, and figure out what's the fair way to handle this case.
Greg Skordas, thank you. We are seeing on CNN more, I don't know if it's breaking news or developing news, but it's new for us. But it says that prosecutors and Hunter Biden agreed to more limited plea deal, according to CNN.
Oh, I need to know what that means.
Well,
Do we know? We don't know what that. Can we dip into CNN?
Let's dip into CNN.
Thanks, guys.
Leaves open the fact that the prosecution, and they're conceding that the prosecution very well could come back and charge Hunter Biden with other unrelated issues, some of those you were talking about before.
Right, exactly. It does appear what the scope of this now is a lot more narrow. Certainly, it doesn't cover the entire waterfront. Mm-hmm. If you're Hunter Biden and his legal team, you wanted a deal where all of the things related to his overseas business dealings, all of that would be covered by this agreement. And it appears what the government is saying, what the prosecution is saying, is that no, there's some aspects of that are still being investigated, and that what this covers is simply the tax violations that cover the years 2014 to 2019. He's pleading to 2 years of misdemeanors for those 2017 and 2018 tax years, and then of course the diversion program for the gun. But what this means, Dana, is that there is still the cloud of legal uncertainty for Hunter Biden going forward, that it appears some aspect of this is still being investigated by the Justice Department. We don't know what the scope of that is. We don't know whether there's new facts that have emerged. Certainly we know that as part of our reporting over the last couple of years, that the FBI and the IRS looked at a number of things, including his business dealings in Ukraine, in China, in other countries, some of his foreign income, and also whether there was any money laundering, whether there was any violation of the Foreign Agent Registration Act. Those are the things that we know already had been very, very much investigated. The question is, what else is there, and how much longer could that take? And for Hunter Biden, this means this is not over.
And that really is the key point that you just made there, that we've just learned has come out of the courtroom, right, Evan, in Delaware. And Sarah, just politically speaking, you mentioned this earlier, a big part of the story as we speak is the House Republican majority, led by the House Speaker, leaning further and further into an impeachment inquiry. Right. Unclear what that exactly means. Trying to get information about the other things, the things that are now still left out there as a big question mark as part of a federal investigation, in addition to what we know is being investigated by House Republicans.
Right. And, House Republicans have done a lot already to try to zero in on the Biden family's business dealings, focusing on Hunter Biden's business partners and trying to get various bank records and that kind of thing. They've never been able to tie Joe Biden to what Hunter Biden was doing. They've never shown that Joe Biden profited off of Hunter Biden's overseas business dealings, despite what some Republicans on Capitol Hill may say in some of their interviews. And, they've sort of been holding out this notion of this impeachment inquiry as maybe this is another mechanism for us to get more information. And certainly, there's a way that you could do that to get more information around Hunter Biden, even around President Biden. But getting more information from the feds at this
All right, as we often do at this time, we have to cut to break. But just to bring you up to speed very quickly, it looks like the Hunter Biden plea deal is in peril. That we're supposed to be just really a simple proceeding today where he was going to walk into court and plead guilty to tax charges and also this gun charge that he's facing. The judge says she has troubles with tying the gun charge to the tax charges, and now we don't really know what is going to become of this plea deal.
And apparently the prosecutors and Hunter Biden agreed to a more limited plea deal, so we don't know exactly what that entails or how much protection or how much vulnerability that leaves for Hunter Biden. But I think CNN hit it right on the head, saying what was hoped to be the end of the story for Hunter Biden, this will continue, and this will continue to be investigated, and it will stay in the news as we learn more and more about this plea deal that has been modified.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hey, stay right here for more of Dave and Dujanovic.
And tomorrow morning, come back here for news, traffic updates, and reliable weather.
Join us to have a listen. Tim and Amanda.
Your morning companions for news.
When news breaks early in the morning.
The explosion occurred around 5:30 this morning.
2 people injured in an explosion at a chemical plant.
Some normal operation going on here with some individuals working on a tank.
KSL reporters race to the scene.
There's no ongoing risk to the public.
Get breaking news and the top stories. Utah's Morning News with Tim and Amanda.
We do have a reporter on the scene, and we'll have more for you coming up.
Weekdays 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing and me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new plan. Nothing is every day.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
At Fisher Investments, our clients know we have their backs.
How do your clients know that?
Because Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, the highest standard for a financial advisor. It means we're there for our clients and always put their interests first.
So wait. You do it because you have to?
No, we do it because it's the right thing to do. Our clients trust us with their retirement savings, and we know how important that responsibility is. So we take the time to really get to know them.
Get to know them how?
We make sure we understand their unique goals, finances, health, family, and lifestyle, so we can tailor their portfolio to their specific needs. Our goal is to help them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Sounds like a big responsibility. You must make big commissions then, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We have one single transparent fee that's structured so we do better when our clients do better. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you are switching to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer, whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Sometimes people will ask me, Tim, how do you have all the energy you have to do all the things you do? And I have to tell you, a part of it is that I lost 34 pounds, a year and a half ago, and I've kept it off all this time. And I think back to when I was heavier, I would be by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd be exhausted, because we get up so early. But now I have afternoon energy. And I know it's because I'm not lugging around that 34 pounds that I had been for how many years. I did it on SOTA weight loss. SOTA stands for state of the art.
And you're going to have the energy to do more, which is then going to help keep that weight off. We've said it before, but imagine go to the gym, pick up 34 pounds of weights and just walk around the gym for a while. It'll give you an idea of what you've been lugging around. My daughter lost 42 pounds, and she continues on the maintenance phase now. Find out how this company can help you or somebody in your family. Go to SOTAweightloss.com, spelled S-O-T-A. Think Tim and Amanda, because SOTA Weight Loss is state-of-the-art.
Tracking this developing story in a Delaware courtroom right now, federal courthouse, where a judge has basically put a pause on Hunter Biden's hearing. He's supposed to enter a plea agreement today, say that he was guilty of tax fraud charges, and if he said that, or tax charges, if he said that, then this gun charge would eventually be wiped off of his record after 2 years. But the whole thing is on pause, Dave.
Greg Skordas, KSL legal analyst, joins us right now. Greg, this is all unfolding in front of our eyes with just little whispers of what it might be about. What's the latest that you're hearing?
So let me just tell you what's happening here from the judge's perspective. And when he went to enter the plea, he was pleading guilty to these tax charges, and the government says, we're not going to prosecute you for any other tax charge. He's pleading guilty, or at least he's getting a diversion on the gun charge, and they said, well, we're not going to do anything more with the gun charge. So the judge says, does that mean that he's got immunity from everything, including what really started this whole thing, which was dealing with a foreign government? And the government said, no, he doesn't have immunity from that. And Biden's attorney said, hey, wait a minute, we thought we were wrapping everything up. This is supposed to be the end of the Hunter Biden investigation. And the government says, no, we're still investigating him on these other things. And so the judge is saying, it doesn't sound like you guys have a deal, because the Biden team thinks this is the end all. This is it. We're done. And the government's saying, no, we're just done with the tax issue and the gun issue. We've still got other things we're investigating, and we're going to continue to investigate those.
Okay, so if you, Greg, you've been a defense attorney. You are one now for a long time. You're Hunter Biden's defense attorney. We're just going to pretend for a moment. What do you tell your client to do?
Well, I think exactly what they're doing, and I think both sides are acting appropriately. It's just unfortunate that there wasn't a meeting of the minds. I think you tell your client, look, this is still a great deal. We should work it out. And ultimately, maybe you end up taking the deal, even knowing that there are other potential charges coming. I mean, I think that it's a good deal, even if there is another investigation still going.
Greg, the immunity aspect of it, it seems interesting to me that there was such a miscommunication, because I think ultimately, of course, that's what Hunter Biden's team would have hoped, is that this clears him from here on out and it's taken care of. How was that not discussed, or is that common that they don't communicate in such detail?
It's embarrassing to both sides, Dave. You would expect that the government lawyers have some egg on their face right now, and you would expect that the Biden lawyers didn't handle this as well as they could have. In a case like this, Dave, your question is brilliant. Everyone should have had all of their facts together, no loose ends, no problems that could arise. You're in front of an international audience watching you. Don't mess this up. And the fact that they hadn't considered these other potential charges, this pending investigation, which has been going for years, and put that into the equation, I think is a little bit inexcusable to both sides. Maybe the Biden team just thought, hey, let's just hope this falls through the cracks and nothing happens. And maybe the government team is going, well, of course they know we're still investigating this. But there was not a meeting of the minds as it relates to this other investigation, which may not ever even go anywhere, but the government is saying you can't shut us down from doing our investigation.
For those of you who are just joining us, we're talking about the Hunter Biden plea deal that went south today in federal court in Delaware, where a judge began questioning the agreement altogether. You just heard with Greg Skordas talking about this immunity issue. And the fact that one side felt as though they were going to get full immunity for Hunter Biden. That would be his defense team. The other side, the prosecutors, saying, no, we've still got other things that we're looking at. We can't give him immunity from other potential charges down the road. I'm trying to keep my eye focused, Greg, as I'm talking on this viewpoint that Fox News has. They're fixated, as TV cameras often are, when big important cases are going on in federal court or in other courts, fixated on the front door to see if Hunter Biden is going to be walking out at any time, because the wording is getting stronger and stronger on the part of the national networks, news networks, saying things like appears to be falling apart. Instead, they're saying it's fallen apart in court, and it's over the gun charge. So I'm still getting some mixed signals on what the judge really had the heartburn with and why she paused all of this. But that gun charge has been concerning to me all along. It seemed like an odd fit to kind of squeeze into a plea deal with tax charges.
Right, and I think that's part of the whole problem here, Debbie, is that the defense team thought, well, we'll deal with the gun charge, we'll deal with the tax charge. We're dealing with everything. After today, we're done with the Hunter Biden investigation, and the government's saying, no, these are just two pieces of it. There are other pieces. And to the beginning of your question, everybody's focused on that courtroom door, because if Hunter Biden walks out, you can assume that the deal is done for the day, that it just didn't work. But if the parties are still in the courtroom negotiating, they're still in the building hammering out a deal, and they're going to try to sell it to the judge here in the next hour or two or three or four, then maybe he's not going to walk out of the courtroom, court building rather. And so I think there's a reason why we're all focused on that front door, to see if it's just off the table or if they're still trying to put something together.
Greg Skordas, thank you for calling in, and feel free. You've got an open line for the next hour and a half with us, Greg. Anytime you want to call in, we'll break in for you. But thank you for taking the time as we learned that the original plea deal for Hunter Biden has fallen apart, has been modified. What that exactly means, whether it's the gun charges, the tax charges, immunity, we will continue to follow this story this afternoon.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. A plea deal between federal prosecutors and President Biden's son Hunter has apparently fallen apart in a courtroom in Delaware. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy explains.
Federal Judge Mary Ellen Noreika aired her concerns about the deal in open court, raising questions about prosecutors' plans to set aside a felony gun charge in exchange for guilty pleas to two tax-related misdemeanors. Congressional Republicans had accused the Justice Department of arranging a sweetheart deal for the president's son, citing the recent testimony of IRS whistleblowers who say their investigation into Hunter Biden's business dealings had been stymied by higher-ups.
Here in Utah, a man from Payson was displaced from his home after fireworks that his neighbors were shooting off lit his house on fire. Payson Fire and Rescue Chief Scott Spencer.
The people started pounding on his door and woke him up, and he was able to get out of the house safely.
The home is unlivable now, with an estimated $100,000 to $150,000 worth of damage. Spencer says this is just another reminder about securing fireworks. A reminder, as of today, it's once again illegal for people to shoot off their own fireworks anywhere in the state. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Again, that issue with Hunter Biden and the plea deal falling apart in a courtroom in Delaware. And there are ongoing negotiations that have not yet been resolved in that issue. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 43 points right now. The NASDAQ, though, is down on the day right now about 59 points. And our KSL weather, another hot day with a possible thunderstorm. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
Early mornings can be hard enough, just getting yourself going.
We try to make it a little easier with news and weather from comfortable, trusted anchors and reporters.
Join us on Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9
on KSL News Radio.
This is Jeff Stout with Fink & McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple. It's no secret that mortgage rates have risen from historic lows over the last few years. In some cases, having a low mortgage rate can also act as so-called golden handcuffs when homeowners don't want to refinance and lose their rate. One solution to this is a home equity line of credit, or HELOC. HELOCs have higher rate than first mortgages, but they offer flexibility as they are a credit line that can be tapped into as needed. This is a way to take care of financial matters such as debt consolidation, home improvements, medical or college bills, or whatever without losing your current mortgage rate. And when rates come back down, you can refi and take out the HELOC. Call us if this is something you'd like to explore. Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple, 801-264-9494. That's 264-9494. Or on the web at finkmcgregor.com. NMLS 289115.
Troy, I'm depressed. Bitches RV and American Fork is killing it.
What's depressing about that?
Stewart's RV managers and staff are still here, so we've got the same incredible customer service.
That's good.
And we brought in new RV brands like Ember RV and GoPlay Travel Trailers.
Also good.
And now you can shop hundreds more RVs at bitches.com.
Still waiting for the sad part.
I'm used to being a mentor, but I'm turning into a manatee.
You do have the same shape. Bish's RV is now open in American Fork. Come see us at the previous Stewart's RV or at our North Salt Lake location. Bish's RV, where memories begin.
MVP's bonus days are back at Lowe's. Find special savings on top brands like DeWalt. Right now, save $60 when you buy a DeWalt impact driver or drill for just $99 each. Plus, MVP's Pro Rewards members will earn 3 times the bonus points when shopping the Pro Zone. Shop in-store and online today. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. DeWalt offer valid 7/17 through 8/2. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid through 7/28. Subject to change.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's High Yield Savings Certificates. Here's Len Thomas.
Well, Dan, in Utah County, a former vehicle fire southbound still being cleaned up. It's I-15 at Pioneer Crossing, still taking 2 right lanes, and the backlog is from 2100 north. Up in the Salt Lake Valley, we have a stalled vehicle westbound I-80 at 20th East and Sugar House. That's got a right lane closed, traffic slowing from 13th East. Win a Tempur-Pedic mattress and adjustable base this weekend at the grand opening of Snooze Mattress Company in Pleasant Grove. Come experience our exclusive dream mapping technology. Get mapped, get fitted, get sleep. I'm Thomas in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, a high of 99 today with a chance for thunder showers this afternoon. Highs climb back above 100 by Friday and Saturday. 88 degrees, partly cloudy right now at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM at KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic.
There's an important hearing in Idaho regarding the Lori Vallow Daybell case. Remember, she was found guilty on 5 separate charges, including the murder of her children and also the murder of her husband's wife, who died mysteriously. Well, they determined Tammy Daybell was murdered as well. And today's hearing has to do with whether Tammy Daybell's aunt can speak at Lori Daybell's Vallow Daybell's sentencing next week on behalf of her deceased niece as a victim.
Yeah, it's called the Victim's Impact Statement, and this is something that is, I don't want to say new, but you know, in the past few decades, it has become more common. And what a Victim's Impact Statement is, after someone has been found guilty, they're going before the judge to be sentenced. The victims can come in and talk to the judge or the jury, whoever is responsible, but typically the judge. And you can talk to the judge and tell them how your family, how you personally have been impacted by the crime that was committed against your family. It's usually very heartfelt, very emotional, very moving, and I have found it is very effective. And when the judge hears about how the family has been affected, that can influence the sentence.
Have you had to give or offered victim impact statements on behalf of your family because of the murders that took place involving your grandma and aunt many years ago?
Yeah, I was too young when that happened, and it wasn't common back then. In fact, it was that basically spun up a constitutional amendment here in Utah to allow victims' impact statements. So because we were unable to give a victim's impact statement, my family got involved in victims' rights. And then there was a constitutional amendment in the state of Utah to allow or to make it required, or at least offer the opportunity for victims' families to be able to talk to the judge before sentencing.
You can then put yourself in the shoes of Tammy Daybell's aunt, who wants to go before the court next week and speak on behalf of her deceased niece who was murdered. And before the show, Dave, I sat down and spoke to Nate Eaton. We've had him on the show before, but he was going to be in court for this. He's in Idaho. He's a news director at the East Idaho News. He has been tracking this Daybell story from the very beginning, and I asked him about the significance of what was happening today. What is happening today in court regarding the Daybell case, Nate?
This is a last-minute hearing. Lori's defense team is objecting to having Tammy Daybell's aunt give a victim impact statement at the sentencing next week. Legally, under the law in Idaho, victims are classified as immediate family members, and because she does not fall within that qualification of an immediate family member, Lori's defense team says she has no right to speak. Now, the judge did grant her permission because Tammy Daybell's mother died a few weeks ago, and so in lieu of Tammy's mother speaking, the judge said the aunt could speak, but the defense team has an issue with this.
That's tragic. I didn't know that her mom had died.
Yeah, her mom passed away June 8th, I believe, and she made it through the trial. I think that was her hope. She had been in ill health for quite some time, and from what I understand, a few days after the trial, she just fell even more sick than she had been, and unfortunately, she won't be here for the sentencing. And that is one of the reasons that the aunt said, "Well, let me speak on her behalf." The other people who we know will be speaking are Tammy's sister, Samantha, and she's going to read a statement from Tammy's father. He also is elderly and won't be able to attend the hearing either.
Remind us how Tammy Daybell fits into this horrible crime spree.
Yeah, there's so many names, so many details. Tammy Daybell was married to Chad Daybell when Chad Daybell met Lori Vallow, and they started having an affair together, and Lori was found guilty of killing her children, who were found buried at Chad Daybell's property. And then Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife, also died, and Lori was found guilty of conspiring to commit her murder, conspiracy of murder. So that happened. She is the accused, or no longer accused. She did do it, and she will be sentenced on Monday. And so how Tammy Daybell figures into all of this is she was married to Chad, who has not yet gone to trial, and the Tammy's Daybell is affected by this, obviously, because she died. So that's why there's this discussion over who gets to speak during the hearing.
Speaking to Nate Eaton, who is the news director at the East Idaho News, about a hearing today regarding Tammy Daybell's aunt, who wants to testify on behalf of Tammy at Lori Daybell's sentencing next week. What do you expect to happen at the sentencing next week in terms of the amount of time the judge will grant Lori Daybell?
That's an interesting question, Debbie. This would be Lori. She hasn't said a word. The only thing she has said publicly is 3 years ago when we found her in Hawaii, and I said to her, people are praying for you. They're praying for your children, back before we knew any of this. She said, that's great. She could have testified at trial. In fact, there was a question of whether she would take the stand at trial. She never did. This is her chance to speak. She could apologize. She could explain herself. She could ask for mercy. She can say really whatever she wants, and I think the judge would be fairly generous and liberal in the time that he would give her. I have heard that she has a lot she wants to say. Whether she says it in this venue or not, I don't even honestly know if her attorneys would know at this point. It might be one of those last-minute things that she does. So she could take 2 hours. She could take 3 hours. Kay Woodcock, JJ's grandmother, will also speak and give a victim impact statement. They're saying that the sentencing should not last longer than 1 day. But there's a lot of interest in this case, a lot of people watching, and the maximum sentence she could face is life in prison on each of the 5 counts. She's got 2 murder charges and 3 conspiracy to commit murder. She could get life on each of those charges.
we do have an update coming up next. We'll find exactly what the judge has ruled as far as allowing extended family members to speak at that victim's impact statement.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Did you know Utah has just one all-news station in the morning?
It's this one, weekday mornings between 5 and 9.
Start your days with us. We're Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Your morning companions for news.
Hey, folks, let me tell you, if you have a family member or a loved one that is going through the process of recovering from addiction and you're not quite sure what to do, let me tell you about Renaissance Ranch. Renaissance Ranch has been helping folks and families for over 20 years. They have an amazing track record. But one of the things they've learned over those 2 decades of helping people with addiction and overcome addiction is getting family involved. The more you have family involved, the research has shown that the better the chances of success. You have that support staff and that team. So Renaissance Ranch offers free online classes. They do it weekly. You can attend as many of these classes as you want, and you will learn more about the addiction, how you can be a support, and what you can do for that loved one. They teach it from a number of perspectives, personal perspective, folks that have been there right along and have gone through the things that you're going through. So if you're interested in getting some help, learning more, or how to even be a support, look into renaissanceranch.com. That's the website. For those free online classes, you can learn about those at the website. Just go to renaissanceranch.com.
Can we talk about something difficult to discuss? Are you going through a difficult financial time? You have equity in your home, but nobody can help. I'm Jason Erskine with American Home Loans, and we have created the Bridge Loan Program to use your equity regardless of your credit at this time. The Bridge Loan can be used to pay debts, collections, IRS liens, divorce settlement, or just simply improve your property. Give us a call at 801-262-2221. This loan creates a bridge between now and a much brighter future. During COVID, one of our clients had over $85,000 on credit cards. Their scores were too low to borrow on their home. We were able to save them $2,000 a month, and after 8 months, they qualified for a conventional loan and improved their situation. Look, the consultation is free. Please let us see what we can do for you. Call 801-262-2221. That's 801-262-2221, or go to AmericanHomeLoans.com. That's AmericanHomeLoans.com.
NMLS 245422, Equal Housing Lender.
With the economy the way it is, you're probably staying put. So invest in your home, your number one asset, with beautiful custom replacement windows from Advanced Window Products. They're a local Utah company building beautiful vinyl framed and insulated double pane windows for 37 years right here in Salt Lake City. Advanced Window Products will save you money on your energy bill. Get security features to keep your family safe. And at Advanced Window Products, it's all custom. And the best part? They're local. They build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. So there's no middleman markup. You save on the highest quality windows in Utah. Plus, Rocky Mountain and Dominion offer rebates. For a limited time, they offer 60-month 0% financing. And right now, get $2,000 off 10 windows or more. They're working 8 weeks out, so make the call now. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or visit AdvancedWindowsUSA.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
You ever notice when someone takes a sip out of a water bottle and they find it to be really good, they always seem to look at the label. Folks just can't help themselves when they take a sip out of a Little Spring water bottle. Well, there's a reason it's called Nature in a Bottle. No chemicals, no additives. It's just pure, clean, healthy water from a family-owned and operated bottled water company where that Little Spring is nestled in a beautiful canyon in Bear Lake, Utah. Now, just imagine the reaction from your customers if your logo was on that recyclable bottle of pure goodness. In the advertising world, they call those impressions. Of course, when you drink Little Spring water, you'll just call it impressive. Let Little Spring Water put your company logo on a bottle and watch what happens. Just visit littlespringwater.com to get a quote. It's actually quite reasonable. littlespringwater.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the plea bargain that was supposed to resolve charges of tax evasion against Hunter Biden fell apart when he appeared in a Delaware courtroom this morning. Second, a firework that tipped over and shot sideways set a house on fire in Payson last night. Third, a construction crane fell off a high-rise building in Manhattan early this morning. 6 people there were injured. Right now, 88 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
The trial of Lori Vallow Daybell. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
The aunt of Tammy Daybell, all she wants to do is talk to the court next week at the sentencing of Lori Daybell about her niece. Tammy Daybell, of course, dead. Caught up in this web, this conspiracy of murder and lies. Lori Daybell, of course, convicted and will face sentencing next week. And Tammy's mom just recently passed away. She was going to be the one to speak, Dave, but she just recently passed away. So now the aunt wants to step in, and there was a hearing today about that.
Yeah, it was part of a victim's impact statement where a family member of the victim can go before the judge, tell them how this has impacted the family, how this crime has impacted the family. And there's some leeway as far as who can speak, how many people can speak to the judge. The judge kind of determines whether or not he'll allow one or two or several family members to speak of these victims' impact statements. So the question, though, is, because it sounds like Idaho laws, you were speaking to Nate Eaton of the Idaho News, it has to be a direct family member.
It's narrow.
So the question was, can an extended family member, an aunt, speak at one of these victims' impact statements? Adam Small joins us right now. Adam, what have we learned about this?
Right, so they just had a hearing between the prosecution and the defense, and Judge Stephen Boyce is overseeing the case this morning, and basically both sides put their argument in. The defense put in their motion objecting the court, asking the court not to let Vicky Hoban, who is Tammy Daybell's aunt, speak in this hearing. They're like, look, her father and another family member have also been, wanting to make statements. So it's like, it's not like she doesn't have anyone to speak for her. So that's really the issue here. Another issue is that under Idaho code, you have to be an immediate family member. An aunt is not considered an immediate family member in Idaho. But Judge Stephen Boyce heard both sides. The prosecution didn't really have an objection. The defense was like, we don't want this because X, Y, Z. But then Judge Stephen Boyce actually is allowing her to speak. And we actually have some sound from him in this hearing, and he explains why and how she can do this.
Under Idaho Code 195306E3, that indicates that the court may designate a representative from the immediate family to exercise these rights on behalf of a deceased, incapacitated, or minor victim. In this case, the court has already made a ruling that Vicky Hoban is not technically a victim. What she would be, pursuant to the court's order, was a designated representative under Idaho Code 195306E, and the designated representative of Tammy Daybell's now deceased mother. When I look at the language of the statute and the case law, what I don't find is any limiting language stating that this designation of a representative can only apply if there's an absence of anyone else to make a statement.
Okay, so there you have it, Adam.
Yeah, so what he's saying is, so she's not going to be speaking for herself. She's going to be speaking as a designated representative for her mother, Tammy Daybell, who has recently passed away, as we mentioned. So she is, in essence, going to be speaking on behalf of her mom.
Sentencing next week.
Sentencing on Monday. Lori Vallow Daybell is going to be sentenced for 2 counts, first-degree murder for her 2 children, J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, 3 counts of conspiracy for her kids, 1 for Tammy Daybell, and then 1 count of grand theft.
Thank you, Adam Small, KSL News Radio reporter.
Going back now to our developing story, what is happening and unfolding in a federal courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware this morning involving the president's son, Hunter Biden, where a plea deal that was supposed to seamlessly happened first thing this morning has seemed to have fallen apart. Former U.S. Attorney for the District of Utah, John Huber, now joining us as this unfolds. This has been a whole bunch of drama this morning, and it seems like this simple plea deal that obviously a lot of people had some heartburn with because he wasn't supposed to serve any prison time. It's a done deal. I mean, it's not a done deal that they're signing off on it. It sounds like it's fallen apart, John.
It does sound like that, Debbie. And, it's funny that you have the prosecutors from DOJ and the defense team for Mr. Biden thinking they have a deal, but they, sometimes we forget, well, there's a court, there's a judge who plays a huge role in these events. And the judge had some questions and some concerns, voiced those, and they're back to the drawing table, it looks like.
John, very interesting as we're seeing this unfold before our eyes. When the judge was asking the questions, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded like the judge was trying to clarify, saying, okay, these tax charges, these gun charges, does this close the chapter, or does this close the book on this? And the defense is saying, yeah, that's exactly what it does. And the prosecutors were saying, no, that just takes care of this very narrow scope on these specific charges. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's what it looks like, Dave, that, of course, two parties are going to have different views on what the words mean. Lawyers are supposed to use words that really get down to the nitty-gritty and into the weeds so that there are not questions or different interpretations. But in this case, it sounds like there was enough of a difference that this thing kind of, I don't know if it fell apart, but certainly it took a pause and need to go back to the drawing table to figure it out. It sounds like the defense was trying to assert, even weeks back to the time this was announced, that, hey, this is all over, this thing's done, whereas the Department of Justice has said consistently, no, we're still working on some things. That came to bear today in the courtroom, it sounds like. I mean, these are developing stories and facts. Everything is hyper-scrutinized in a case like this. So, the parties are walking on eggshells. It sounds like they're breaking a few eggshells as they walk around. The government's made, they're smashing. And so it sounds like the government said, hey, this book's not closed. And the defense says, well, then this deal's off. And, they're going to have to go back. Whether they can resolve that today, I don't know. It might take some more time to see if they actually have a deal or not.
Well, as you know, John, I know you cover you follow news very closely, and you're obviously the former U.S. Attorney for Utah. You've been involved in some pretty high-profile prosecutions. I wonder. I'm just playing what if here. If it would have been better for Hunter Biden to not take such a sweetheart plea deal, agree to some prison time for immunity. That seems to be the sort of the hiccup here, is this immunity idea that if he pleads guilty today to tax misdemeanor counts and then this gun charge where he's accused of fraudulently obtaining a gun and filling out a federal form using false information that he wasn't drug addicted when indeed he was drug addicted. I can't help but play what if there and say, if he would have just taken a deal that wasn't quite so sweet, if the judge wouldn't have been, more agreeable to it.
Yeah, maybe. It's a matter of perspective. Where you stand on an issue depends on where you sit. And as a charged defendant, I don't know how maybe he doesn't view this as a sweetheart deal. Maybe he views this as heavy-handed, and certainly we've seen those comments made by commentators. It's a matter of perspective, but certainly the judge had enough questions in this case, and she posed those questions in court that didn't get satisfactory answers or caused ripples between the parties. This thing wasn't buttoned up as tight as the parties thought, or maybe even the public thought. And we forget that when you go to a court of law, the person presiding over the case is the federal judge, and that judge is going to play a significant role. They're not just rubber stamping and therefore eye candy. These judges play a very important role to make sure the case finds a just result, and also that the public has trust in the system, that the system is working as it should.
John, maybe you can take us into the mind or the reaction of the lawyers when the the judge starts pushing back. Have you ever been through a situation where this happened? Is there a moment of embarrassment? What's the reaction there?
Oh, yeah, this does happen. It is a rare event, but these things do happen. In a case like this where the world is watching, it even heightens those emotions. So I'm sure the blood rushed to the face of both the prosecutor and the defense attorney. And we can see in some of their preliminary responses, they were not quite prepared for this hurdle that they had to get over. And it seems like some of the comments from the defense team suggested that, their pride started taking over and, this deal is off or null and void and strong statements like that. So I'm sure blood rushed to the head, and it's going to take some time to dial back those emotions and see if cooler heads can prevail and see if this thing can be resurrected.
Oh, courtroom drama. You got to love it, John. Got to love courtroom drama. But here we are. John Huber, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Utah. Always appreciate your insights. It's great to talk to you. Just checking out CNN's latest reports. Dave, can I just read you straight from the copy on CNN.com? It says President Joe Biden's son will still plead guilty to the tax misdemeanors for 2017 and 2018, but the agreement will also cover his tax-related conduct for the 3 years prior.
So that does cose the chapter, at least on those tax charges.
Right, at least on that. But
I didn't hear you say anything about the gun.
I know. I'm gonna let me see if I can dig a little further. And when Boyd steps in studio, we'll get into that discussion with him.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, your all-day companion for news.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. A former police chief in Stockton faces charges for stealing $200,000 in overtime pay. The Attorney General's office says Travis Romney took the money over 6 years. The consequences for a conviction could be painful.
Unlike most people who are charged with a crime, if you're a law enforcement officer and you're charged with a crime, especially a crime involving your position, you're going to lose your career forever.
That's KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas, who adds that the former chief likely won't see jail time, but he will have to pay restitution. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A plea deal worked out between federal prosecutors and Hunter Biden is apparently falling apart during court proceedings in Delaware. ABC's Rena Roy has more.
Back in June, Hunter Biden agreed to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax charges and accept a pretrial diversion program in exchange for prosecutors dropping a felony charge for illegal possession of a firearm. That program requires steps like no illegal drug use. If Hunter Biden follows those rules, he'll likely avoid prison time, getting probation instead.
And taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up over the 0 point, just barely 4 points higher. The NASDAQ down 69 right now. And our KSL weather, sunshine that could turn into a thunderstorm later on. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
What do you need to hear in the morning to feel ready for the day?
Important news that happened overnight, the traffic you'll hit on the roads.
You'll be ready for your day with us.
Join Utah's Morning News 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money. But do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At Capital Wealth Advisors, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the Capital Wealth Advisors team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 801-210-5500. That's 801-210-5500. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. Capital Wealth Advisors, 801-210-5500. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Let's cut to the chase. $25 per room for the best no-residue carpet cleaning. Zero Res pioneered the no-residue difference, and to celebrate Pioneer Day, Zero Res will clean your carpets for just $25 per room. Other companies say they clean as good as Zero Res, but it's just not the same. Zero Res has patented technology to ensure you get the best cleaning possible, and yes, those patents mean that no one else is cleaning like this. Celebrate Pioneer Day with the pioneers of no-residue cleaning, Zero Res carpet and air duct cleaning. Today and tomorrow only, they are cleaning the Wasatch Front for just $25 per room. Minimums and restrictions apply, but there are no maximums. Clean 5 rooms, 6 rooms, clean the whole house. Just $25 per room. You don't have to clean today, but you do have to get on the schedule. $25 per room, Pioneer Day savings ends on the 27th. Schedule today, visit zerorez.com. That's ZEROREZ.com.
We have emergency traffic now, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's High Yield Savings Certificates. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have a rollover crash in Weber County, and this vehicle is sitting on its top in the middle of the freeway. This is southbound on I-15. Northbound on I-15 near 21st Street in Ogden. Now, if you're traveling in this direction, they are blocking off all but the far left lane of travel, and solid delays are now passing the I-84 Junction Riverdale Road area. And then our second hot spot, emergency traffic in Utah County. This is a vehicle fire. Even though it's in the mop-up stages, it's really made a mess of the drive. This is southbound I-15 near Pioneer Crossing, American Fork. It's been blocking right lanes. And even though they've opened up more lanes of travel, you still have delays past Lehigh Main Street. Fill up your bucket list in Box Elder County. History, recreation, and wildlife, along with excellent dining and shopping, await you. Find out more at visitboxeldercounty.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, a high of 99 today with a chance of thunder showers this afternoon. Highs climb back above 100 by Friday and Saturday. And right now, we're at 91 degrees, partly cloudy skies at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic have inside sources.
Okay, we're going to talk about not only Hunter Biden, but also his dad, President of the United States, Joe Biden, and what these developments today in court may mean for his father. Boyd Matheson in studio with us as well.
With the 3 things you need to know.
Boyd, we've been covering all morning long Hunter Biden and the plea deal that kind of falls apart. We've had this conversation in the past on this show about how sticky a situation it becomes when you have family members that are upstaging the politicians. But it's not a unique story.
No, it's not unique. It is in terms of what kind of charges he's facing. That's definitely historic. But there's been things all the way back to Dolly Madison's son, Todd, was arrested numerous times. He was a drinker. He was a gambler, had all kinds of problems. Roosevelt's daughter, Alice Roosevelt, said, I can either be president of the United States or I can control Alice Roosevelt. I cannot do both. And so there are a lot of challenges.
There's a lot of fathers that have felt that way.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's kind of an interesting component. So to me, the more nuanced pieces of all of this is, how does the person who is the president respond to all of this? And how do they deal with it? What's the communication strategy? I think there's been a few missteps by the president. I think having Hunter Biden attend a state dinner with the head of India was kind of a tone-deaf thing in the midst of all of this. So there's definitely some communication strategy components to it. I think one of the most important things for all of us to recognize in this is we don't know. And we have to be willing to say, I don't know. Could this be bigger than Watergate? Yes, it could. Could it be a nothing burger as relating to the President of the United States? Yes, and we don't know.
So back up a bit. When you say we don't know, there are some things we do know. We know that he's in a federal court today. This is Hunter Biden, that he was set to plead guilty to tax misdemeanor charges and potentially this gun charge as well. We do know that he has admitted that he's had a cocaine addiction. Yeah. Is what you're saying when you say we don't know, meaning we don't know if President Biden was involved or connected in any way?
So I think there's two components to that, Debbie. I think one, we don't really know to what level the president was involved or not involved in any of this. We do know the things in terms of taxes. We do know the gun charge, which is interesting because as part of the plea deal, I think going in, Hunter Biden thought all of this was going to be taken care of, which you know this better than anyone, Debbie. Right. When you have a plea deal, it sort of wraps it all up. But then for them to say, but we're not quite done, doesn't really make a plea deal. There's also a very interesting contradiction. President Biden was the one who led out on gun reform and mandatory minimums if you're lying when applying to get a gun. So the mandatory minimum on this is 10 years. And so if they're going to sweep that away, again, tone deaf, something nefarious, I don't know.
And when you say sweep it away, I mean, that's essentially what Republicans have been saying all along. And the judge has had clearly some heartburn with all of this today. She's continued to pause this. I think she's put 2 pauses on the hearing today. And the sweeping away would be the fact that he wasn't going to have to deal with any sort of prison time at all if he entered these guilty pleas.
Part of this investigation and the charges that come about, and this has been the case over the last several decades, is you're looking into something here and something else pops up, which is originally they were looking into the Hunter Biden, the Burisma energy deal in Ukraine, and then they found, in our investigation, we found these tax charges. We found this gun thing, or the tax, I don't know, evasion's probably not the right word, but not paying his taxes. You start seeing other things pop up. How do you balance this? Because you're saying a plea deal would wrap it all up.
Yeah.
But when the investigation is still going on, and the statute of limitations is running out, there's this weird balance of, well, we got to charge it while we can still charge it, but at the same time, there's still work to be done.
Yeah, and I think that's so for me, the big question today is, what else is there? If they're still saying, well, no, this doesn't put everything to bed because there's still some ongoing issues. The fact that it would be a 5-year investigation and end on some tax penalties is a little odd. And again, maybe it's just that's what they have and they feel like they need to do something. But again, I don't know. I can't figure out where it is or why. And I think that's, to Debbie's point, why the judge has heartburn is, wait a minute, I'm not signing off on that. That doesn't make sense.
And it sounds as though that they're not going to be giving him any immunity going forward. I mean, this immunity will be from 2019 and back. So it's like, living in reverse here for any issues related to that tax issue. But going forward, the Department of Justice has left the door wide open, in my view, and just the reading of what has been happening in court today, that if they find anything else, it's theirs to investigate.
Yeah, and so I think that's all interesting. And then you have days like this often create more confusion than clarity, and so obviously that's going to whip up Republicans in the House to say, aha. And so they're going to want to ramp up their investigations, and they're going to want to have their hearings, which may be helpful and which may not be helpful in that whole process. But it does create political opportunities for people to say, yeah, there's more to this story. But again, does it turn into something, or is it a political distraction or a political bludgeon that they can use against the president?
And when you start talking about these investigations, obviously impeachment has been thrown around, especially recently, about impeachment charges coming against President Biden. Have we weaponized impeachment?
For sure. And that's clearly on the table and part of the discussion. The fact that it's part of the discussion this early in an investigation. And it's sort of the Watergating of everything, that everything is going to become this big national catastrophe, and that we can weaponize it against people we disagree with is part of the problem. We saw that with Hillary Clinton. We saw that with Donald Trump. We're now seeing it with President Biden. And in many cases, it keeps us a very safe distance from actually having the conversations we need to in this country about a whole host of things.
Is there enough smoke, though, and in this case, perhaps enough fire with what's going on in court today with Hunter Biden, that we need a very transparent and open, and we, look, I'm not a huge fan of the congressional hearings that keep on giving and giving and giving. But it is the president of the United States. We do have some pretty serious allegations against his son. Are we just better off just knowing and getting more information, as much as we can, and getting it to the public?
Yeah, I think it's up to the department. I think it's up to the House in terms of any kind of hearings. They need to be swift. They need to be transparent. And they need to lead to a finality. Because one of the things that is exhausting the American people and undermining trust in the institutions is that this is a never-ending story. Like, it is the song that never ends that your children used to sing that would just drive you crazy after a minute. And so now we're in this perpetual loop of investigations, and it exhausts the public. And so then it undermines the trust of, is this even happening correctly? Is this a sweetheart deal? Is this one more
Is this just
politician?
political again?
Yeah. And so there's a lot of those things that, for me, undermine the most important thing, which is the trust in our institutions. And I'm not sure we're getting a lot of clarity. I think we're getting a lot more confusion today.
Oh, it's definitely murky. It's definitely murky, Boyd.
Boyd Matheson, Inside Sources today from 1 to 3. Thanks, Boyd.
In a world where actors picket and writers won't write, two heroes emerge. The apprentice, Andy Farnsworth, and the master, Steve Sales. Get new t-shirts. Are on a mission to find you something, anything to watch. The Movie Show. Fridays 9 to noon on KSL News Radio. This show is rated PG for pretty good.
Hey, folks, if you have soft water in your house, awesome, great for you. I'm happy for you because it's been great for our family. But if you don't, if you have hard water, you may not know this, but Utah has some of the hardest water in the entire country. And what does that mean? Well, several things. Number one, you're going to feel it when you take a shower, take a bath. Hard water is hard on the skin. I've had that experience. It's also hard on those expensive appliances that you have, whether it's a washing machine, dishwasher. The cleanliness of your clothes matters, whether you have soft or hard water. And who hasn't had those miserable hard water stains on your glasses? You take it out of the dishwasher and then you're scrubbing, trying to make them look clean. Well, when we got our Connecticut water softener installed, it seemed like all of that stuff just evaporated. Our skin felt great after a shower. It didn't feel dried out and cracking. We didn't have to spend a ton of money on expensive chemicals to try to make those dishes look clean. We didn't have the hard water buildup and the stains that accompanied them. So if you're interested in getting soft water into your home, 801-576-8600 is the number for Connecticut of Utah, 801-576-8600, or check them out online at softwaterutah.com.
This is Jeff Stout with Fink & McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple. Over the years, I have seen a lot of down payment assistance programs. Most of them just aren't practical for one reason or another, but we have one now that is pretty solid. This program is for first-time home buyers or some buyers who have been out of the market for several years. It includes a gift of up to $4,000 to help with the down payment. Given that this program only calls for a 3% down payment in the first place, this gift can be a real game changer. Some restrictions apply. One restriction is that the household income cannot be over a certain amount, which for most areas along the Wasatch Front is around $85,000 annual income. Call us today if you want to take a look. Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple, 801-264-9494. That's 264-9494. Or on the web at finkmcgregor.com. NMLS 289115.
Here's a question. Do you wear dentures? At Grandpa's Dental, you can trade in your floppy dentures and get $2,000 towards an implant-supported solution. You know, they say the older you get, the more you need your teeth. Well, chewing your food isn't a luxury. And taking a bite out of a nice, juicy steak, well, it takes teeth. At Grandpa's Dental, they have over 10,000 restorations under their belt, and it's always affordable. When you walk into one of their 3 locations, you're family, period. At Grandpa's Dental, they live their family legacy by building lasting relationships through state-of-the-art services. So if you want to stop the flop and actually eat foods you can chew, trade in your dentures at Grandpa's Dental for $2,000 toward your implant solution. Schedule your free consultation at grandpasdental.com today. That's grandpasdental.com.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right. Y'all gotta try that Febreze car. Just right, just right, just right. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistent scent, all over Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face. When it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah, breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
Yeah, I'm so stressed. Our business is growing. We've got people all over now.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Ooma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 50 features.
Ooma?
Yep, switching to Ooma is a cinch. Just $24.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Find small business calm at ooma.com/radio. That's OOMA.com/radio.
Join KSL in the movie show this Friday from 9 to noon at the Salt Lake MPS store at 1600 Empire Road, mpsstore.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a former police chief from Stockton has been accused of stealing more than $200,000 from the city. Second, the plea bargain for Hunter Biden that was announced in June apparently didn't survive a court appearance in July. And third, hundreds of prescription drugs are in short supply across the country. Right now, 91 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
As the world turns, my goodness, this has been drama inside a federal courthouse in Delaware today as the president's son, we thought was just going to kind of waltz in and plead guilty to a couple of misdemeanor tax charges and then this unrelated gun charge. He got caught buying a gun he wasn't supposed to own because he had a drug addiction. And they was going to plead guilty to all, and they weren't going to give him any prison time. And then you bring the judge in between the prosecutors and the defense team who have struck this deal together. And she's like, whoa, 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 have some concerns. So they put the hearing on hold a couple of times. I think I have some clarity, Dave, on what the new deal spells out for Hunter.
Because part of the question was, how narrow is this scope? Like, is this immunity moving on? Does this close the book, chapter, everything? We're done with Hunter Biden, or are there still avenues if they find new things in their investigation to charge him with?
It sounds to me like the defense, of course, wanted complete immunity.
As they would.
From here on out, you are covered in Teflon, Hunter. We cannot touch you if we sign this plea agreement. But however, prosecutors kind of stood up and said, there's other stuff going on that we're going to look at, and they don't want to give him full immunity. So here's the latest as CNN is reporting it. So Hunter has agreed to a new limited deal that only includes conduct related to those tax offenses, which covers 2 years of not paying his taxes in full. I think he owed $100,000 for each year. It also covers drug use and gun possession. So that is the new deal. But he will still plead guilty to the tax misdemeanors for 2017 and 2018. Now remember that gun charge goes away. It gets wiped off his record after 2 years if he stays clean and he doesn't use a gun or try to illegally own a gun. And here's where he got something back from the prosecutors. The agreement will also cover his tax-related conduct for 3 years prior. Now, remember, that IRS whistleblower, I saw him on CNN. He testified before Congress, and he brought up there were issues with the 2014 and 2015 taxes as well. So that appears to be all included in this plea deal. However, nothing going forward. There's no immunity going forward if the government continues their investigation, which it sounds like they are.
Okay, again, it's changing by the minute. CNN is reporting that the judge is not ready to accept the plea deal between Hunter Biden and the Department of Justice, and that Biden pleads not guilty.
All right. So there you have it. Apparently, he did not approve of this new deal that was spelled out between his team and prosecutors, and now has pled not guilty. He had planned on pleading guilty when he walked into court today.
No plea deal, according to CNN, according to Fox News. They are reporting that no plea deal, that ultimately Hunter Biden decided to plead not guilty. So the next step is what? Going to trial, a grand jury? What's next?
Well, they'll go back to the drawing board. They'll try to hammer out another agreement potentially, or the Department of Justice will retreat and say, all right, let's have at it. And they could decide to amass evidence to take to a federal grand jury and see if a grand jury will indict him on that gun charge, on tax-related issues. We'll just have to see what happens. But right now, he's got a not guilty plea. But you're right, Dave. Absolutely. It could very well mean that this is just going to trial because he has entered a not guilty plea to the charges at hand right now.
And if this does end up at trial,
yeah,
the level of detail, a lot of the things we thought we knew, it will be presented. We'll know exactly what's going on and what he's been charged with and how this went down specifically.
Yeah, it's that not guilty plea that continues this case in a forward trajectory to the point where it could very well go to trial. Unless they decide to strike another plea agreement. This is wild. This is
the not guilty
wild,
is a move forward in having a trial, but at any point they can still create a plea deal and take it to the judge.
We have kept Desmond. I'm sorry, Desmond. I forgot your last name. Lockman. Hi. We've kept you waiting here on the line while we sift through these recent developments with the president's son. And we wanted to talk to you about what is going on in China, because I guess it sounds like the economy is in a real mess, and the unemployment rate, according to the Washington Post, is hitting new highs there. So can you give us the latest on what's happening in China?
Well, you're certainly right that the unemployment rate is rather shocking. That youth unemployment, people under 24, the unemployment has hit something like 21.5%, which is really troubling from a social point of view. Unemployment overall has crept up to something like 5.5%. And this is a time that the Chinese economy is showing every signs of moving to a very much slower growth path. They've got real problems in their property markets. They've built far too many houses. House prices are falling. People aren't building. The local governments are in trouble because they can't sell the land. So all of this really does not look too good. So it looks like what was an economic miracle. China had this extraordinary growth burst, after they began their reforms in 1979, and that lasted for something like close to 40 years when they did extraordinarily well. now it looks like they already hit a brick wall and they're going to a very much slower growth path. And it looks like they're not going to be overtaking the U.S. economy in size anytime soon.
Desmond Lockman is a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and an expert on China. And when we last spoke to you, you were describing just the sheer size, the 4 times the population size of America, but still had a smaller economy than America does. Could you describe the standard of living for folks in China?
Yeah, that's right, is that the economy is a little bit less than that of the United States, but there are 4 times as many people by which to divide it. So if you look at their per capita income, it's only something like $12,000, so that's way below ours. It's around about
wow,
20%.
$12,000. That is shocking. That is, boy, I had no idea it was that low.
Well, it gets worse. If you look at the distribution of income, isn't that great? So you've got something like 250 million people living on something like $3 a day. So you've got a lot of people pretty close to poverty. They've been taken out of extreme poverty. That's one of China's success stories, that they had a lot of people living in the rural areas who came to the towns. They got better jobs. So they're out of extreme poverty. But people in China aren't well off. They've also got to live with a huge amount of pollution, and they don't have freedom of movement. So there are many drawbacks. But if you're just looking at material goods, Chinese level of consumption is way below that of the United States, and things that we would take for granted in terms of things like automobiles, stuff of that sort. That's not the case for most people.
Just real quickly, when you describe that, Desmond, it just makes me wonder: is there any notion that that people are going to revolt?
Well, that's part of the reason that they rule with an iron hand. Yeah. You did have Tiananmen Square. You've now got this youth unemployment problem. Part of the deal that has kept China together is that it's been growing rapidly. So people could put up with authoritarian rule, if they knew that they were going to have improved living standards. So this is now going to be a very big question for China going forward, that if the economy sputters, people see that the money that they put into houses wasn't worth a whole lot of stuff, they're going to be pretty upset with the regime. The regime is just going to get more and more authoritarian, putting down any sort of protests. We saw that last year. People were boycotting the mortgages, that they weren't repaying it, that people went out into the streets. So things are likely to brew the next few years, if China, in fact, is slowing and, in an economic mess.
Desmond Lockman, thank you for joining us from the American Enterprise Institute.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top national story this hour. Once again, we have breaking news. President Joe Biden's son, Hunter, has pleaded not guilty to 2 tax crimes after a plea deal with federal prosecutors unraveled during a court hearing today. The judge was concerned about the agreement. Hunter Biden was charged last month with 2 misdemeanor tax crimes of failure to pay more than $100,000 in taxes. He'd made an agreement with prosecutors who were planning on recommending 2 years of probation, and that deal is now on hold. There's an update to the Monument Fire burning about 55 miles southeast of Vernal now. Officials say it was caused by lightning. That fire now 80% contained, and crews are making good progress because of recent light rain and clouds. Americans are having a hard time getting the prescriptions they need because there are shortages of hundreds of different prescription drugs. President-elect of the Washington State Medical Association, Dr. Nari Hishmati, says despite the roadblocks, a lot's being done to combat the problem.
We've had things that have certainly impacted us. We've also got a lot of coordination of major healthcare systems and the Department of Health here in Washington. And I think that's really helped mitigate a lot of the impacts.
Data from the University of Utah says there are more than 300 active drug shortages in the United States as of a few weeks ago, the highest number in nearly a decade. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average has slipped into negative territory now, down 22 points at this hour. The NASDAQ is down 65 points. And our KSL weather will be hot today, but there's also a chance of a thunderstorm. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Losing weight is more than just a number on the scale. Boy, did I learn that. I started the SOTA weight loss program a year and a half ago. I lost 34 pounds. And yes, watching the number on the scale go down was really great. Mm-hmm. But they helped me with a lot of other things, like why did I binge eat? Why did I used to sit down and not be able to stop if I started eating Wheat Thins? I'd eat the whole box of Wheat Thins. Why did I do that? And because ultimately, you're only going to be healthy if you can change the way you look at food. Your relationship with food has to change.
Yeah.
And SOTA weight loss helps you with the whole picture to help you get healthy.
Well, and heaven knows we need all the help we can get at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But mental clarity and focus also becomes important for that weight loss journey. My daughter lost 42 pounds, and she's now in the maintenance phase, which simply means that she checks in with her nutritionist every couple of weeks just to make sure she's on track. They can help you or somebody in your family as well. Go to SOTAweightloss.com. It's spelled SOTA, stands for state of the art. Think Tim and Amanda. SOTAweightloss.com.
When you take a walk around your neighborhood and notice all the things that make it feel like home, like all the houses lying neatly together in a row, or your neighbor, Miss Rita, who always waves at you when you drive down the street, or that movie theater in the strip mall that might look a little worn down, but has the best popcorn you've ever tasted. One thing might be a little harder to notice, because somewhere tucked in that neat row of houses is hunger. It could be your next door neighbor, or your coworker, or your daughter's friend from school, because over 30 million Americans don't know where their next meal is coming from. Hunger lives in neighborhoods all around us, but it doesn't have to. At Albertsons Companies and Safeway Foundations, we are on a mission to provide 1 billion meals by 2030, because everyone should be welcome at the table. Learn more at nourishingneighbors.com. Let's break the cycle of hunger together.
When you crash your car, you get it fixed. When your computer crashes, you get a new one. But what will you do if you've been saving in a 401k or an IRA and the market crashes? If you're in your 30s or 40s, you'll be just fine. But if you're in or near retirement, you could be in trouble. Mike Stevens and his team at Capital Wealth Advisors are here to help. They can run a risk analysis to see if you're too heavily invested in the market. Don't let the ups and downs of Wall Street control you or your retirement dreams. Call 801-210-5500 today to schedule your risk analysis with Mike Stevens and the team at Capital Wealth Advisors. That's 801-210-5500. Crashes happen. Question is, are you ready? Capital Wealth Advisors, 801-210-5500. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
Even before the pandemic, 1 in 5 American adults experience some form of mental illness, depression, suicide, prescription opioid misuse. Utah isn't immune to our share of challenges, but there is hope. We need to take action to keep our loved ones safe. That's why KSL has teamed with the University of Utah Huntsman Mental Health Institute to bring you hope and help you thrive. It's Healthy Mind Matters. Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
We have emergency traffic once again. brought to you by Granite Credit Union's High Yield Savings Certificates. Here's Ricky Meese.
Crews have made fast work of clearing this rollover crash on northbound I-15 in Weber County near 21st Street in the Ogden, West Haven area. Now, even though the crash, the actual vehicle has been cleared from the roadway, they're still blocking 2 right lanes of traffic, and we still have delays almost back to 5600 South Roy. Fed Up Kitchen's newest meal prep location is open at 2440 South Main Street in Woods Cross. Use code FOUNDING50 for 20% off your first order or 10% off for a year. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we'll see a high of 99 today with a chance for thunder showers this afternoon. And highs climb back above 100 by Friday and Saturday. 91 degrees, partly cloudy right now at KSL News Radio. 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
The developing saga of Hunter Biden, who walked into a courthouse today, a federal courtroom in Delaware, expecting to take a guilty plea on 2 tax misdemeanor charges and a gun charge. It was a sweetheart deal that Republicans were jumping up and down about. They felt it was just way too lenient, that he was not going to be getting any prison time.
They've made him a very good deal, and he sucked it up like a Hoover Deluxe, and I can't blame him.
That was Senator Joe Kennedy. Oh, yeah. I think the judge was trying to figure out how sweet of a deal this was. So she started asking questions to the defense and the prosecutor and specifically about the ongoing investigation into Hunter Biden, and that if this deal would give immunity to him and close the chapter on these things. And the prosecutors are like, no, of course it wouldn't give it immunity. And the defense is like, that's exactly what it would give us. And the judge said, well, you clearly don't have a deal then, because you don't even know what you're talking about.
And the judge saying just a few moments ago she's not ready to accept the plea deal. So the hearing ended with Hunter Biden entering a not guilty plea, at least for now. The judge has sent both the defense and prosecutors to their rooms to start working on additional briefs to file in court, kind of explaining the plea deal structure. The heartburn, as we were watching this unfold, as it took its twists and turns throughout the morning, really, I think, began with this gun charge being lumped in with the tax misdemeanor counts. Now, to back up, if you're like, okay, what is all of this? What has been going on? Hunter Biden was set to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor counts of tax evasion, if you will. That's not the right terminology, but it's basically
not paying your taxes.
Right. Paying your taxes, right. So in 2017 and 2018, he brings in $1.5 million, something in that range, maybe a little over $1.1 to $1.5 million, and owes $100,000 each year. Doesn't pay it. Now, there's been allegations that it goes back even deeper than that. However, that's what he was charged with, was 2017 and 2018. Now, it's been reported that a source has said that he has paid in full. So the taxes have been paid. But then you bring in this kind of this gun charge. It kind of like, it's like, a candied apple that you're going to serve. So you got the apple, it's covered in, caramel.
Deliciousness.
And then on top of it's like onions. You know what I mean? That's kind of what this reminds me of, is like, now we're going to swoop in with this like gun charge that has nothing to do with this tax. I mean, he didn't use a gun to evade his taxes. Right. He went and purchased a gun illegally. You can't have a gun if you're addicted to drugs. He has said that after his brother Bo died, he became addicted to cocaine. And he signed this form, this federal form, and you're not supposed to lie on it. That's why it probably says in fine print, you cannot lie under penalty of oath and all of these different, penalties that lie before you if you lie. If we catch you in a lie on this form, we're going to get you. We're going to come back after you. So just envisioning what was going on behind the scenes at the IRS. There's a criminal investigation division for the IRS. They're going down the path of tax evasion, tax fraud, tax looking up, and it probably, as a matter of course, they probably ran a whole bunch of information on him to figure out what else he's done, like what else has he filed. So they can do that. They're investigators. They are special agents with the IRS, and maybe they didn't even. Maybe they referred to another, another agency. Maybe it was the FBI or Bureau of ATF, and asked them to start running, and they found this. And that's what happens when you open yourself up to criminal investigations, as they find more and more and more. So I think what's happened here is the judges said, like, yo, I don't like how that is connected. There are also those questions of immunity going forward. He's probably not going to get that. And so the judges said, time out. Don't like it. It stinks. We're going to send you guys back to your corners and figure it out.
I think all along what Republicans were seeing is exactly what you described. How does a tax charge and a gun charge get lumped together when they had nothing to do with each other? It was like 1 + 1 = fish. Like, it doesn't make sense why in the world these two would be lumped together. Now, you'll see lots of charges put together if they are all related. Of course, that would make all sorts of sense.
Yeah, if the gun was part of a continuing conspiracy or something of that nature. But it does feel like, what do you say, 1 + 1 = fish?
Yeah.
I like that.
And the gun charge very easily could have been charged separately or negotiated separately, and the tax charge the same thing. And perhaps that's ultimately what they will do. Maybe they were just trying to make it convenient. I don't know.
Would you be okay with this scenario? Like, let's say you take the guilty plea on the tax misdemeanor counts and serve no prison time, but potentially face prison time or some time for the gun charge. Or do the tax charges bother you so much you feel like he needs to serve prison time for all of it? Because we've heard on this show many times that a lot of the times these kind of tax charges don't amount to prison time. Our very own legal analyst, Greg Skordas, has said it's kind of unusual for somebody to go to prison for that. Although there's some data out there that suggests when it comes to tax fraud, which is much more, maybe a more elevated charge, that people do serve prison time. But what makes you feel most comfortable in this scenario?
Number one, I am not enough of an expert in the law, in sentencing, to make a real definitive, hey, this guy should serve 6 months in jail. I do not know. There's obviously a political component to that. Like, it would be silly not to recognize this. Is he being treated differently because he's the son of the president of the United States? Yes. But I don't know if he's being treated differently in the sense, as our legal analyst Greg Skordas has said, that he's being more harshly scrutinized because of his affiliation, being his father is the president of the United States. But I also don't know if he's getting the sweetheart deal because his dad's president. I'm not sure which one it lands on. So that's what makes this story so clumsy. And we've got to be able to look back and say, okay, if you're going to let him off, show me a million different reasons or ways you've treated other Americans the exact same way. I need to see it one way or the other. Whether you let him off with a slap on the wrist or you give him jail time, I need to see the precedent of other people you've done the exact same.
You need the spreadsheet.
I need the spreadsheet.
Of names,
yes.
What they did, and what kind of punishment they got.
Because I guarantee
across the country,
there's a million examples of somebody evading or not paying a couple $100,000 worth of taxes. There's a million examples of somebody lying on their gun form. Of course, there's a million examples of these. So let's find the meaty center and punish him accordingly.
I just hate it when you're logical.
Hey, Derek Overstreet here from the New Millennium Group, financial advisors in Utah. I've been helping people retire in the state of Utah for the last 20 years. The way we do that is we actually find out what is important to you. We create a step-by-step plan that takes into consideration your income, your debt, whether you want money from real estate, stock market, annuities, life insurance, whatever. If you want to deal with professionals people that are fiduciaries and have a legal responsibility and obligation to do what's in your best interest, give my team a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Or go to my website, utahsfinancialplanner.com. If you'd like to retire 3 to 5 years before you thought it was possible, give my team a call right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370.
With our roots in northern Utah, Holy Cross Hospital has a legacy of caring to help every person be whole and healthy. Find us at 5 Holy Cross Hospital locations and more than 45 clinics along the Wasatch Front. Learn more at holycrossutah.org.
At Holy Cross Hospital, we're honored to carry the legacy of our namesake and equally honored to care for northern Utah's vibrant communities. Find us at 5 Holy Cross Hospital locations and more than 45 clinics along the Wasatch Front. Learn more at holycrossutah.org.
If you're hiring, it can feel like trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. Like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Now try ZipRecruiter free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/FREE.
You know, in Box Elder County, they're all about the bucket list. Want to go birding at the premier birding destination in the western United States? Well, check off the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. How about land art? The spiral jetty and sun tunnels will leave you inspired. Or stand on the spot where the Union and Central Pacific Railroads joined and forged the destiny of a nation. Yep, Golden Spike National Historical Park is like no other place. Check. Splash, boat, camp, or fish your day away? Willard Bay State Park will guarantee a good time. Soak in a natural hot spring with the highest mineral content in the world? That would be Crystal Hot Springs. You'll feel rejuvenated. Eat at Utah's original steakhouse. Maddox Ranch House is perfection. Check. A 1920s diner. The Idle Owl Cafe will transport you back in time. As you empty your Box Elder County bucket list, you'll find a whole new set of adventures to fill it up again. Fill up your bucket list at visitboxeldercounty.com.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. One of Salt Lake City's newest areas is the Maven District, a curated block of locally owned businesses working to create a community of walkable shops, eateries, and offices that believe in diverse communities, self-growth, and dreaming big. Founder Tessa Arneson joins us with more.
Maven District is the proud home of Salt Lake City's largest community of women-owned small businesses. With more than 100 locally owned shops, services, and startups, our collective of buildings is located in the heart of downtown on the corner of 900 South and 200 East. This includes our own 2 businesses, Maven Strong, a boutique Pilates studio, and Maven Create, a co-working and event space. In addition to commercial properties and private offices, we also offer luxurious but affordable residential apartments and townhomes. Overall, our goal is to build a dynamic city for our future, so we approach real estate development and property management much differently. While others are focused on the bottom line, we're focused on changing the landscape of SLC for the better by giving back to our community and ensuring our tenants alongside the surrounding neighbors all thrive together. Learn more about us and come visit us at mavendistrict.com.
From townhomes to co-working spaces to ice cream and jewelry shops, you never know what you might find in Salt Lake City's new neighborhood, the Maven District. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the plea bargain Hunter Biden agreed to before he appeared in a federal courtroom this morning didn't hold up to judges' scrutiny. He's now pleaded not guilty to those charges. Second, dozens of different prescription drugs are in short supply across the country. And third, a new report adds some details about how many kids and seniors have stayed in Utah's homeless shelters in recent months. Right now, 91 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
David Dujanovic.
We're going to get back to the latest developments on the Hunter Biden courtroom saga today, where he ended up entering a not guilty plea to tax crimes and then also this gun charge as well, which was just a complete turn of events that happened during our show today. We expected him to go in and plead guilty, but the plea deal fell apart in just the last hour or so. But there's a lot more going on in the world other than what's happening in that courtroom in Delaware this morning, and Dave really wants to talk about it.
UFOs. Like, I'll be darned. UFOs I'm so torn, Deb, because we've seen the video, we've heard the testimonies. Is that really a thing? And what is Congress trying to figure out about UFOs? Kelly Meyer from News Nation joins us right now and break down. There's going to be a hearing today on the Capitol grounds. What's going on?
Hi there. Yeah, thank you for having me. Well, I think after today, at least according to the UFO community that was here, to those testifying and the members of Congress on both sides of the aisle that heard their testimony, there was no question whether there are UAP or UFO out there. It's how do we start to better report on it and collect information and find out as much as possible. Just with the testimony that we heard today, it was, according to them, undoubtable that there is something out there. They've seen it, they've reported it, and now it's about finding out what exactly that is. One of our, correspondents from our News Nation station, KLAS with Nexstar, said, quote, "I don't know that after what happened today, you can put that genie back in the bottle." So it was really a watershed moment here on Capitol Hill today.
What did they bring evidence like that ET is, surrounding us, or what did they show, Kelly, that stood out to you?
Well, they didn't quite show that, but they did talk about seeing, what the Navy pilots have seen in the skies, basically saying that the maneuvers that these aircraft did were, in short, or in my own words, out of this world. This wasn't something that was of our capability, beyond our capability, the sophistication, they said. It was able to move forwards and backwards. They couldn't really figure out what it was. And this is going back years, decades, that this information has been collected. And I think the key point for them here was to bring this to Congress and say, we've been trying to tell someone at the Pentagon or our commanders, and they haven't been listening, and they've been pushing us away just with the stigma around it. And what they're trying to push, I think, the most about this is that it's a national security issue, because if we don't know what these things are in our skies, and they said clearly, each one of them said, if we were facing off against this, no military member could survive it, is something they said today. But then this needs to be figured out, and that way we can protect our country and potentially Earth from whatever this is, and they just can't put their finger on it. So they're really trying to erase that stigma and really get this word out in the public and have people start to ask questions.
Kelly Meyer from News Nation, thank you for joining us. I did not expect to hear this is how we protect Earth. That is fascinating.
National security issue.
National security issue with the UAPs or the UFOs that are have been reported on and seen over the years.
Back to our developing story of Hunter Biden entering a not guilty plea after his plea deal that some have said is a sweetheart plea deal fell apart this morning when a judge started really needling some information out of prosecutors and his defense team as well. She didn't like what she was hearing in terms of this plea deal. So let's bring Greg Skordas back on the line with us, our legal analyst here. Been a prosecutor, you've been a defense attorney. What's next now that the judge has said you need to go back to your rooms, both sides, and so entering more briefs?
Well, and I think that's exactly what they'll do, Debbie. The judge said, look, there were some loose ends, and oftentimes with these plea bargains, the devil's in the details, and the two parties just hadn't worked those out. There may have been some things that they didn't even anticipate, but the judge, to her credit, was not going to leave things unhandled, leave things open for another day. And she said, look, I want this to be the last time I see Hunter Biden in my courtroom if we're going to do a deal. If not, plead not guilty and let's schedule it for trial and see what happens. So I do think that this was generally a good thing. We're not going to have problems down the road with this. There will certainly be some maneuvering like Kelly Meyer from News Nation talked about with the UFOs. With these attorneys are going to be doing a fair amount of that pretty quickly here. But I think they'll be back in front of this judge here in pretty short order in the next week or two and get this thing done.
What's the significance of him pleading not guilty?
Well, he had to do something, Dave. He's in front of the judge. It triggers what we call a Speedy Trial Act, and that is once you plead not guilty, then the judge, she would have entered the not guilty plea if he hadn't, but then the judge can start scheduling dates, the case moves forward, and it doesn't just give both sides sort of an open forum to say, hey, we'll see you in a month or so. She's basically saying, you're now in my court, you've now got your case before me, we're going to get it resolved and get the clock running.
If they don't reach another plea deal that the judge feels comfortable with, it just goes on to trial, doesn't it?
Yes, and what remains to be seen, Debbie, is what would go to trial, because the misdemeanor was essentially a plea bargain. It was a reduced charge from what maybe could have been. The gun charge was a diversion, and so the judge is saying, we need to put up or shut up. I can't imagine that the government wants to go to trial. I'm certainly Hunter Biden and his counsel don't want to go to trial on this. So there's a lot of incentive for both sides to resolve the case and not go to trial because we don't even know what they would go to trial on. We don't know what the exact charges are, because what we were dealing with today were the reduced plea bargain charges to get the case resolved. So the government may say, no, we're going to trial. We're going to go on everything we've got. And the defense may say, hey, you're locked into this, so we'll see what happens.
Greg, I was having, again, a little confusion of why the tax charges and the gun charges were being lumped together at the same, in the same hearing. It did feel like 1 + 1 = fish, because the gun charges had nothing to do with the tax charges and vice versa. Was it just expediency? Was it simplicity? Why were those two totally different charges being lumped together?
And that actually hits the whole problem on the head, Dave. That was perfect, because this started out as a foreign corruption case and morphed into a tax case and sort of a gun case. As the government started digging, they found more and more and more. And I think everybody wanted to resolve all of Hunter Biden's issues today, and that's exactly what they were unable to do. And the judge said, does this resolve everything? The defense said, yeah, we think it does. The government said, oh, no, we've never told anybody this is the end. So I think the judge was smart in saying, look, let's wrap up all the loose ends here. Let's figure out what we're doing and be clear on what we're giving up, what we're granting immunity for, and what's still on the table, because those were issues that hadn't been resolved between the parties before they got to court today.
Greg Skordas, thank you for being with us. The last 3 hours, it has been unfolding in a pretty wild way, but Hunter Biden, the plea deal ultimately was never finished. It was never agreed to, so he put in a not guilty plea, and back to the drawing board.
I know our team of reporters and producers are continuing to track this story today, along with Maria Chaleos, who's up next. Make sure you're tuning in to Jeff Kaplan this afternoon for the latest.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio. You're all